Good afternoon, and welcome to our quarterly meeting for the Public Information Department. We're very appreciative to have you take the time to be with us here this afternoon across the United States and in our supervised lands. We have a wonderful program in store for us. We think that you'll find it very encouraging, and we're excited that you're here. We know we'll all benefit. We're going to start by having an opening prayer from one of our branch committee members, Brother Richard Devine.
Our Heavenly Father, Jehovah, what a privilege it is to approach you this afternoon, and thank you for this nice occasion we have to be together, to see good for our hard work. We certainly appreciate the work of our Public Information Department, including those here at Bethel and all those throughout our branch territory who expend themselves daily to advertise the kingdom. And we pray your continued blessing on their efforts, and certainly we appreciate them very much. And we think too of all of your activities throughout the world. May you please bless the faithful slave as they take a good lead. May we always be obedient to their direction. May you give them the wisdom needed to navigate through these perilous times. So we ask your blessing now on the quarterly meeting of the Public Information Department. We pray this in our King Christ Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you, Brother Devine, for that very thoughtful prayer. Predictability. We all love predictability. When you have predictability, you can plan ahead. You can schedule things. You can set yourself up for success and help lessen the chance of failure. Those were just some of the reasons why last year when we were together for this very meeting, we wanted this year, 2022, to be the year of predictability. And let me tell you, we worked very hard to make that happen. Out in the field, to get a whole year's worth of press releases together, storyboards and audio stories, the RCM tool being reworked to have this predictability calendar. We wanted predictability. But there were some savvy veterans of PID in the field that predicted that our predictability would be unpredictable. And their prediction was right. Who would have known? It started just very simply in March. We did really good up until March with our predictability. But then the Bethel family, sitting together, Brother Sanderson comes on the television at 12:15 and announces, we are back live for our meetings, live for the memorial. And we know you brothers and sisters were working so hard on that 2-year no knocking pitch. It was perhaps the most localized pitch we ever had ready. And we had to shift gears immediately into this very exciting return to the meetings. And then, of course, it just snowballed from there, from our public ministry to September 1st, the return of door-to-door knocking. It was amazing. And now, as we're getting to the tail end of this year, even more change coming to the Public Information Department. And change is good. Change helps us to be adaptable. It helps us to progress. It helps us to rely on Jehovah all the more so. And when change comes knocking at the door, you want to make sure that you're ready to make that change. We'll cover with you here today a number of Bible principles that will help us when it comes to making change and making adjustment. Here was just one example to think about at the beginning. It was a conversation that Jesus had with a person whom we don't know his name, just that he was rich and young. It's recorded in the Bible book of Matthew, chapter 19. And at the end of the conversation, the man was asking finally, what do I need to do? And you'll remember it. Jesus said, give your possessions away to the poor and come be my follower. That was not predictable. That was going to be a massive change in his life. Very similar to what happened to Saul when he was on the road to Damascus, when Jesus appeared to him. That was not predictable. A change was going to need to be made. An offer was given to him to come be the follower of the Christ. Those two men responded much differently. Saul makes the decision, the right change, and then Jehovah uses him in magnificent ways Whereas this young, rich man made a poor decision, it said that he went away grieved because he had many things. How sad, especially considering that in 66, he would have lost his wealth anyways. What does that teach us? We're excited about change. We belong to an organization of change. Jehovah's constantly on the move, and we're on the move too. And so you'll see that as we go through our program. This year, we're not talking about predictability. This year, our theme is simply the road ahead. There's our theme for the program today. And we're going to be able to enjoy that throughout our program. That theme will be highlighted. Brother Richard Devine is going to give us a wonderful talk. He serves here on the United States Branch Committee. And for those of you that don't know, right now the Bethel family is being shepherded and the Branch Committee is extremely busy. So what a blessing that he's taken time out of his busy schedule to spend with our entire PID family today. Directly following his part, we're going to have a wonderful discussion that will be held by our overseer, Robert Hendricks, and the assistant overseer, Matt Ullman, about some specific changes that we know are tangible right now, and perhaps some things that are coming down the road. Brother Hendricks and myself will talk about the conventions, an exciting feature of PID work. We're so excited to be back finally after 3 years. This is going to be wonderful. We have a great part from Brother Seth that's going to help us when it comes to our localization of our convention pieces. And our voices from the field also tie into this theme of the road ahead. Two couples, big changes in their life. How did they process it? And then, of course, Robert will have some concluding thoughts, and we have a very powerful end-in-year review of all of the hard work of you brothers and sisters in the field that we thank you for. So, without further ado, let's give our attention to Brother Richard Devine as he covers this theme, a balanced and happy life.
All of you, and we want to thank you, the Branch Committee does, for your tireless work in behalf of the kingdom. And really, what a wonderful privilege it is for all of us to have meaningful work to do that promotes kingdom interests in this time of the end. You know, as we go on into the new world, the only thing we're going to carry with us through Armageddon is our memories. That's the only thing that will survive with us. And what a wonderful memory it will be that during these last days, when the kingdom needed our help, we were there, we were available, and we had the privilege of helping out. And we know you friends in the Public Information Department have a very serious and weighty responsibility that can weigh on you, and it can demand at times a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of energy. There's also concern and some anxiety involved, and we appreciate that. But at the same time, Jehovah feels, though, there's more to life than simply work. That work is part of a balanced and happy life. And it's very important to Jehovah that we live a balanced and happy life even during these periods of intense activity, such as this time of the end. We think about the Israelites when they went into the Promised Land. If everyone needed to make an extra effort, it was certainly then. They were surrounded by hostile pagan nations that they were to annihilate. This was a huge, important, and time-sensitive work. And yet, what did Jehovah tell the Israelites? Well, if you were recently married, then you didn't have to report for military service for a whole year. If you just built a house, you didn't have to report for a time. Also, if you just planted a vineyard. In other words, Jehovah wanted his people to have a balanced life, even in times of great activity. And the same is true today. But this can be a real challenge, can't it? There's so many demands on our time and attention. We have time-sensitive work. We have work that's often very important, critical, or sensitive. And this can weigh on us. And when we're not working, we could be thinking about working. Plus, we have our congregational responsibilities, our family responsibilities, and everything. How do we balance it all? Well, please turn your Bibles to Ecclesiastes chapter 6, and this is kind of be the theme of our discussion. And Jehovah here gives such excellent counsel in the book of Ecclesiastes on what makes a quality life. And here, Jehovah could have focused on any number of things that's important in life. But notice what he chose to solely focus on in these verses, helping us to appreciate how vitally important it is. Let's read Ecclesiastes chapter 6, verses 3 and 6. It says there, "If a man should become a father 100 times and live for many years and reach old age, yet he does not enjoy his good things before he reaches the grave, I must say that a stillborn child is better off than he is." And verse 6, "What is the benefit of living 1,000 years twice over, but not experiencing enjoyment? Do not all go to the same place?" What an interesting thought. What is Jehovah highlighting here that's important, in fact, essential to life in his eyes? That we enjoy our life. That's a beautiful thought. Jehovah highlights this and says it's vitally important. In other words, according to these verses, if we're not going to enjoy our life, there's no point in living at all. So certainly it's something Jehovah takes very seriously, and it's something we need to take seriously as well. It tells us a lot about Jehovah's personality, how he feels about us, how he truly loves us as a concerned parent, a concerned father. I had a commuter sister tell me something, and I thought it was quite profound, although I'm sure she didn't think twice about it. But I thought it was profound because it, in my mind, reflected Jehovah's thinking toward us. She said, "I'm very proud of my kids when they're good, but I love it when they're happy." Isn't that a beautiful thought? And that certainly describes Jehovah, doesn't it? He's very proud when we're faithful, when we're obedient, when we endure, when we're self-sacrificing, when we're hardworking, very proud of us. But he loves to see us happy. He created us to be happy, and he wants that for us even during this time of the end. So the question is, how do we achieve that? Well, the secret is balance, isn't it? We see many miserable people in the world, and why is that? Often it's because their life lacks balance. So let's talk about balance and what's important in life during this time of the end as a servant of Jehovah. Now, in my own meditations, of course, this is my talk, so I get to make it up how I want. And I divided life up into 5 main categories that require daily time, attention, and energy to be balanced and happy. So let's go through those 5 elements and see how they contribute to making a well-rounded and happy life, if they each get their proper share of time and attention. So what do you think might be one of the 5 main areas of life that require daily and weekly attention? Well, most spiritual people start out right away with my relationship with Jehovah, my spirituality. And that certainly is one of those 5 very important elements of life. And this is one that's so important, Jehovah actually lays out a schedule for us, doesn't he? We have our daily schedule of daily Bible reading and prayer. We have our weekly schedule of weekly meetings, family worship, field service. All of this contributes to maintaining our spirituality, keeping our minds in the right place, and helping us to remain spiritually strong and close to Jehovah. Jehovah doesn't expect us to be supermen and women, but he does expect this regularity because he knows it's so vital and so good for us. So think of your weekly routine. Now, obviously, there are times where we have some things going on. Maybe we're traveling, maybe there's an extra push occasionally, and we do miss a meeting, or there's some other interruption. But think of the general pattern of our life. Do we maintain that good spiritual daily and weekly routine? We need to do that to be balanced. But that's not the most time-consuming of the 5 areas. Let's talk about the one that is the most time-consuming. And that is just the physical care of our bodies. We're supposed to be unconscious 1/3 of the day. It takes a lot of time to sleep. Also, we have to get up, we have to take a shower, we got to brush our teeth, we got to see the doctor, we got to exercise. We need to eat right, which means we need to shop for the good food, we need to cook it and eat in a relaxed way and clean up. It's a whole thing looking after our physical health. But it's vitally important, isn't it? Does Jehovah begrudge us the time needed every day, every week to manage our physical health? Not at all. If he did, he certainly wouldn't have made us this way. These needs, these physical needs, are nothing unusual to Jehovah. He knows all about them. He created us with these needs. And so he's happy to see us handle these in a balanced way. So that's vitally important. What next might be a vitally important area of life that needs daily and weekly attention? Well, certainly we have to think of our families. If we're married, our marriage relationship. If we have children, that's a very big part of it. And we may have extended family that requires time and attention as well. You see, maintaining our marriage, raising our children is a very important responsibility, and it takes daily time and attention, and weekly, doesn't it? Now, the funny thing about a marriage is it doesn't fit in a nice little box. You can't tell your mate, okay, I got you scheduled in Outlook for 15 minutes, day after tomorrow at 6 o'clock. It just doesn't work that way. So we need to make sure that there's enough air in our schedule every day, every week, to be together in a relaxed setting where there's not a lot of distractions, where we can be present and just enjoy one another's company, do things together. And that's so important because that helps to draw us closer together. It improves communication. And it's why we got married in the first place, to enjoy one another. And so as a married couple or as a family with children, why, there's plenty of things we can do to fill that time depending on the needs and desires of everyone at the moment. But we have to make sure our schedule is not so full that we don't have proper time and the mental energy and presence to give our family what they deserve in the way of time and attention. So that's 3 down. We're almost done. What might be another area that we need to fit in daily and weekly? Well, how about recreation? Now, often as an organization, we de-emphasize the importance of recreation, and that's appropriate since many of our friends do find it challenging to keep that under control. It's so easy to accumulate a boat and jet skis and a house by the lake and an RV and a timeshare, and the list goes on. And so we need to balance that, don't we? We need to bring it into balance, but that doesn't mean it's not important. Doing things daily, weekly that we enjoy, just because we enjoy them, is certainly not something Jehovah begrudges us. If he did, he wouldn't have made such a beautiful and interesting world with all kinds of fun things to do in it. So it's a need. We want to give balance, time, and attention to that. Otherwise, we can become resentful, grumpy, difficult to deal with, and it affects other areas of our life. It's certainly not the most time-consuming of the 5 areas of life, but do we have adequate time and attention for that area of life? We only have one left, and what is that? Well, simply put, it's our assignment, our work. And this is of vital importance during the time of the end. Jehovah tells us, be industrious, not lazy. Always have plenty to do. And certainly we do. If we're serving Jehovah whole-souled, there's always plenty to do. But we can easily allow our assignment to take over our life and to assume such a huge portion of our time and energy and attention that we neglect the other 4 areas of life, which also are very, very important. So we need to make sure that when we take on an assignment, we modestly look at the complete picture and see, can we handle this in a balanced way? Also, we need to be modest in our expectations of ourselves None of us are perfect. None of us are supermen and women. We have limits. And so we need to realize that we're never going to do the perfect job. But if we rely on Jehovah and we have faith in him, we pray to him for help, and we work in accord with his will, developing the fruits of his spirit and treating our brothers and sisters as Jehovah would treat them, why, that gives Jehovah something to work with, and he can accomplish marvelous things through us. So always remember, our work is vitally important. We want to be industrious in Jehovah's service and do as much as we can. The need is urgent. The times are critical. But at the same time, Jehovah is not allowing that to be an excuse for us to live an unbalanced life. So we may need to modestly talk to our overseers, or give careful, prayerful consideration to taking on additional responsibilities that might be offered to us. Or if we find our life is unbalanced, we may need to look at what privileges we have accepted and see, can we realistically manage them? You know, we often think of the scripture that says Jehovah will give us power beyond what's normal. But if you look at the context, it's really talking about crisis situations beyond our control. We're in prison. We're facing a health crisis. There's nothing we can do about it. Jehovah's going to see us through those times, whatever it takes. But he's not going to give us the power to destroy our lives, to destroy our marriage, to destroy our health, to destroy our spirituality. It's not in harmony with his will. So we need to work along with Jehovah and understand how he thinks about things and how we can work with him in faith to accomplish the great work that's before us. And certainly we'll be able to do so with Jehovah's benefit. So the reason I mention this is it's helpful from time to time, if perhaps we're feeling overtired or overstressed or grumpy, or there's issues, maybe it's time as individuals, as married couples, as families, to sit down and think about these 5 things. Are we living a balanced, happy life within the realms of imperfection in this system? And it's never going to be perfect, we know that. But are we living a reasonably balanced and happy life? And if not, maybe look at what do we need to adjust? What's not getting attention? What's getting too much attention? And then sometimes we get to the point where we've just had it with everything. Well, we might need a vacation. We may need to take some time off, reset, come back, and start over. Now, if you're like me, I tend to be balanced at about 10 minutes at a time. But it's not to be discouraging. That's part of just being imperfect. And so as a result, we got to just keep readjusting. As things change, as needs arise, we just adjust, we rebalance, and we'll be fine. As long as we modestly depend on Jehovah and seek his blessing and do his will, why, he'll see us through the end of the system, and all the work that he wants to get accomplished this side of Armageddon will be accomplished. So I'm so happy and privileged to be with all of you today. And I thought this is a nice thing to talk about, because we know what hard workers you are and how devoted you are to kingdom interests. And we want to thank you for that. And we appreciate all that you're doing during this momentous time where Satan is especially busy to defame his organization. We certainly appreciate the work of all of you in the Public Information Department. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Divine. That was perfect for where we are as PID, and I know that you have some of the changes that are ahead for the Public Information Department. And you thought that would be an appropriate message for us, and I'm absolutely convinced right now that I'm going to Hawaii next Saturday to get some enjoyment in. I love that scripture too in Ecclesiastes 6:6. What is the benefit of living 1,000 years twice over but not experiencing enjoyment? Beautiful message for us, and we'll keep on that theme as we move forward with our discussion today. We're very happy to have all of you with us today. We put this on the day before a holiday, a Saturday. We made it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon so that our brothers and sisters in Hawaii can be with us at a reasonable hour. We would have liked to have made it a little later so some of them could get out in service and get their meeting But for the majority, 90% of the branch territory, this is outside of their theocratic activities, and we appreciate you being with us. We have the largest audience that we've ever had, and it's appropriate because it probably is the most important quarterly meeting we've ever had. So we look forward to what's ahead. Well, we're joined now by Brother Divine. Brother Divine has been gracious enough to be with us and a little longer to just do a little bit of an interview. Brother Rich, it's so nice to be able to do that. Many people don't know that you spent years as a spokesman for the organization. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was about 18 years from start to finish that I was involved with Office of Public Information. I didn't work full-time with them at all by any means. But back in the late 90s, the local media, the local press, the local politicians, community groups, and so on, were constantly interested in what the organization was doing locally in Brooklyn. And different brothers had handled different responsibilities with them over the years, but it started to kind of converge on Brother Couch in the 90s, and he was doing some interviews and he was dealing with the neighborhood organizations and things, and he was getting older and he was looking for somebody to pawn that off on. So
I like the way you say it.
I don't know what I did.
He was grumpy one day.
Yeah.
Said, "Hey, Divine."
Yeah, so he started having me handle a few things, and then it kind of snowballed from there.
And who knew at the time we were going to be selling all those buildings, and that would be your responsibility as well. That's when we have a couple of examples, and we'll put them up on the screen now, go full screen, of where you're quoted here. We are very pleased to continue working with officials in the town of Warwick and to move the project forward. That's the New World headquarters. We have this one on selling the towers, and we have you quoted in here as well. And we have, let's see, this one on closing the sale in the headquarters and explaining why we needed that. And then finally, selling 69 Adams Street. Tell us about what were the biggest challenges for you?
Well, at first it started out as just the local public relations really is what it was all about. And it was a little challenging because I was never quite sure, who I was trying to please. One thing I always knew is that I wanted it to read well to the governing body because they would see it all. And Jehovah's,
a lot of pressure.
Yeah, Jehovah's organization. But I was very pleased when the Office of Public Information, after a couple of years, got involved. And I began working with them when issues would come up. And it was mostly reactive when the reporters would call or whatever, or there was a need to get on the good side of one political entity or one city agency or another, that it would get involved. But when OPI was formed and really got rolling and they took an active interest working under the coordinators committee, it made a world of difference because I no longer, from that point on, I never answered an outside phone call. In Brooklyn, when the phone would ring in your office, if it rang like 2 short rings and 2 short rings and 2 short rings, you knew that was outside of Bethel. It was long rings, it was inside of Bethel. And so I stopped entirely answering the short rings. And I'd have my secretary answer the phone. And immediately, if it was media or anything, turn them over to public information. Then they would vet to see, is this a legitimate journalist? The internet hadn't really taken off then, so you didn't have the bloggers and so on at the beginning. But you did have apostates trying to dig some inside information or whatever. So they would vet that and then get an idea of what they wanted to talk about, and then they would schedule the interview, and we would discuss, what angle the organization would want to take. Coordinators committee would be informed, and that just gave me such a sense of security, and I felt really prepared to handle the issues that came up. And with Jehovah's help, by and large, it was very positive. But I learned early on, you can't control what a reporter writes or what a reporter reports on TV or whatever. All you can do is control what you say. you can't even control necessarily what they hear. And I got over that. And there was a time where I didn't even read the articles or watch the broadcasts because I was like, I don't know if I want to. But the Bethel family seemed to be all over it, and they would always tell me if it turned out okay or not. But it was a very interesting experience, a wonderful privilege, really enjoyed it. There were periods of very intense activity where it was, you know, every major news outlet in the city, all 3 or 4 major networks on TV, the news, all the big papers, the small papers, Associated Press would even get involved, especially with the sale of the buildings. Why people were so fascinated with our real estate, I'll never know. I guess they smelled money or something, and that seemed to interest them more than anything.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, we were producing the New World Translation in so many languages, and we had a huge campaign with the Awake on AIDS education we were trying to highlight. Nobody seemed to care about that. They just wanted to know how many buildings we had, and how much were they worth, and what are you going to do with them, and why don't you pay taxes? But all in all, I enjoyed the assignment, and I truly appreciate the support and help from OPI. And now it was nothing nearly as sophisticated as what we have now with our global Office of Public Information and our branch PID. You brothers have taken this to an entirely different level.
Well, Jehovah's seen
which
the
is
need
very
to,
nice.
He's seen the need to do something different, and for now, we'll see where we go from here. But one final question. We appreciate you spending the time and talking about this. We probably talk the whole 2 hours on it, but we're talking about convention today. It's our highlight as PID. There's going to be over 1,000 local spokesmen in the field that will be manning these 711 conventions. Any advice that you would give to them in dealing with the media, responding to the media, reaching out, anything that might be a little gem they can take away?
Not having rehearsed this, the only thing that comes to mind is something that I had at a convention. It was my first time giving a talk to a huge stadium. There's 34,000 people at a huge convention in the Silverdome in Detroit. And I was up on the platform getting ready to deliver my talk to this huge audience. And I was so nervous. And then I thought to myself, look around. When are you ever going to get a chance to do this again? Even if you totally bomb, you really need to enjoy this experience because you may never get another chance to do this.
You were psyching yourself up.
And I changed my whole attitude, and I prayed about it, and I really did enjoy giving that talk. And I do that now regularly when I have any kind of a unusual assignment or a especially stressful assignment. You know, what's the worst can happen? They won't use me anymore. Is that such a bad thing? No. Enjoy it, because that comes across in your work. If you have joy, that's contagious, and it affects the attitude of the people you're talking to. And even the world sees that joy, and they see the evidence of Jehovah's Spirit, and they may not know what it is, but it's attractive. And so be prepared, be well prepared, don't wing it, but also enjoy the privilege that you have, and let Jehovah handle the results.
I can't tell you how perfect those words are, really, because you know, you can say a couple of things that don't do this, but that whole the attitude that you bring to this assignment, the joy that you bring, and the way you can meditate yourself into being calmer, that's really important. So thank you for that. It's probably why they kept you for 18 years doing that job. You did a good one.
I didn't get in too much trouble. Once in a while I got in trouble, but it was pretty rare.
Oh, Brother
So,
Divine, thank you very much.
Jehovah's Spirit and OPI, they got me through it.
Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for that beautiful talk. We really needed it, and hopefully those 5 points will take away, and it'll affect us in a positive way. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, we have so much ahead of us now as we think about the road ahead. Isn't it an outstanding theme for us? when you think about the road ahead, what do you think about? Are you nervous about where we're going, where PID is going? Well, some of you are, we get that. But we have to say, as a department, we're not at all. We're excited. And it reminds us of this beautiful scripture, Jeremiah 6:16. It was prematurely put on the screen by me, so sorry about that. But notice what it says. This is what Jehovah says. Stand at the crossroads and see. Ask about the ancient roadways. Ask where the good way is and walk in it, and find rest for yourself. Would you say that we are at the crossroads? Well, not knowing where we are, for most of you don't know where we are, we will tell you we are at a crossroads. In fact, when we think about this term, where is the good way? It's a beautiful term, that good way. What did Jeremiah mean? What did Jehovah mean? Well, we know that in the case of the nation of Israel, he asked them to look back at the good way. In fact, what he said was, the quote is, ask about the ancient roadways. Now, think about that for a moment. As an Israelite, when Jeremiah was writing this, he had said for some decades that Jerusalem was going to be destroyed. So there was really no hope for Jerusalem. But there was still hope for individual Israelites. There was still hope for families to remain faithful. And what Jehovah was asking them is, look back at when things were good. Look back at when the nation succeeded, when there was largesse, when Jehovah had his blessing on the nation and on families. And what would they find? Well, they would find clearly that it was those times that they were reflecting on what Jehovah wanted them to do and they were obedient. Here's what a watchtower said. These words might remind us of a traveler who pauses at the crossroads to ask for directions. In a spiritual sense, Jehovah's rebellious people in Israel needed to do something similar. They needed to find their way back to the roadways of long ago. That good way was the way in which their faithful forefathers had walked, the way from which the nation had foolishly strayed. What a beautiful thought that is. They could have reflected, and many no doubt did, and many were faithful, and some were able to repatriate the land, the city of Jerusalem, and their temple some 70 years later. But what about us? How does this apply to us? Where is the good way? Where does PID want to go? Where should we be going? And why is this a question nearly 4 years after we were formed? Well, to continue our discussion on this, I'm bringing in my partner, Matthew Ullman, Assistant Overseer of the Public Information Department. Matthew, it's so good to be able to discuss this and to finally talk to everyone about the future of PID.
Indeed. You caught me trying to employ Brother Divine's good advice to stay calm and enjoy the moment. Absolutely. We're very excited to be talking about this topic today. A lot of anticipation's been built about what is the good way. Well, I'm looking forward to being with you to tell everybody what that is.
Mm-hmm. And of course, when we think about our last 4 years, you have to say it's been extraordinary. And I'm proud of what has been accomplished in the field. I'm thankful to see that Jehovah has blessed it, and Jehovah has blessed the work of our dear brothers and sisters in the field. It's been tremendous to be able to see that. But let's go back to 2019. PID US was formed in a way that no other PID in the world was formed. And that's interesting in itself, because we were formed on a policy that was so different from the policies of the past. And if you think about what that policy was, notice this is the direction that we got, and we were built on this. So we got this direction. Then we built PID. All other, I think 87 or so PIDs at the time were built on the old way. It says this: it is beneficial for the branch office to establish good relations with the news media wherever possible. That was a mind-blowing statement from the governing body to branches. Mm-hmm. because it reflected a 180-degree shift in our thinking. But now it went on. If you notice, PID should regularly provide representatives of credible media outlets, journalists, and so forth with newsworthy information. And then it said they should prepare specific localized materials for that. That was a big change. And so the beautiful thing that we had the benefit as an organization, as a PID, to be able to say, okay, that's our mandate, and this is how we'll build. And you can see right from on the right-hand side of this picture here is a Jason Hole at a press conference, basically at a convention. Never been done before. We did it at 7 conventions. This was all new. People were so surprised that they were seeing us on the news now. But then 2020 came, and 2020 was a little bit different. And it did relate to the same. But notice, if you would, Matt, what do you see?
Well, it says it's beneficial for the branch office to establish good relations. That's pretty broad, isn't it? But now here in 2020, we should regularly provide representatives of credible media outlets, journalists with accurate, newsworthy information about our activities and beliefs. So opening it up more.
Well, that's good that you've noticed that, but that was also on the 2019 policy. But notice the difference here is the first one is struck out. A year later, now they're refining it already. Everybody's taking that 180-degree turn, and now they're shifting a little bit back. So the pendulum had shifted, and now it's coming back a little bit because they removed that sentence, a very important sentence that said it's beneficial for us. But then also in 2020, something dramatic happened, March 2020. I don't know if you remember March 2020. Do you remember what happened in March 2020?
Remind me.
A pandemic.
Oh, that.
Yeah, yes. And so the pandemic changed everything for PID. And so I'll just activate these different, yeah. So you see me there? That should have never happened. See, that never would have happened had it not been for COVID. It was about late June 2020. I am in my room just upstairs from the studio, and I get a call from a station down in Virginia Beach, and they said, "Hey, can we interview you?" And I said, "Well, I'm in Wallkill and I'm in quarantine." He said, "No, can we interview over Zoom?" And I don't know why, but we never thought that would ever happen. You know, it's all these years of being in the media and never thinking, you know, Zoom now is like a satellite uplink to news media. And that was the game changer. So not only did the main mandate of PID change, but the entire media landscape changed.
And exactly that is that the world had changed. So the pandemic created a new situation that we had never really seen before.
And of course, then many hundreds, if not over 1,000 interviews later, we're at this place where we are today. And now things are changing again. And they're changing from a media standpoint, but they're also changing from the world standpoint. In 2021 and 2022, we had similar direction from our oversight. But then in 2023, notice, if you would, take a look on the screen. What do you see, Brother Ullman?
Well, it looks like everything that we've been following has been stricken out.
Whoa! Isn't that a surprise? Now, we should tell the friends that we've just gotten this direction this week, and that the direction is actually for January 2023. It does not mean that PIDs are going away. That is not the case. It just means that things are changing. All of our direction, and that is not our direction, by the way. All of our direction has changed. It's been rewritten. So that leaves us to a thought. What do we do now? Where do we go now? Should we be nervous about the future? How do you feel about the future?
Well, I think if we were just left with all those lines crossed out of words, we would be nervous. But one thing that we always have confidence in is that our oversight knows what we should be doing. And so we are comforted is that we have gotten good direction, and we're going to share that with everyone.
We have. In fact, we've gotten specific direction from the coordinators committee. We also have had a number of meetings with both the coordinators committee, those who represent them, and also our branch committee. So we know where we're going, generally speaking, and we're going to share that today. You know, a beautiful scripture and scriptural principle that we shared some time ago was related to the words of Acts chapter 16, verses 4 and 5. Now, we might remember this is Paul, and he was traveling with his traveling companions in Acts chapter 16. And notice it says, as they traveled on through the cities, they would deliver to them for observance the decrees that had been decided by the apostles and the elders who were in Jerusalem, the governing body. Then indeed, the congregations continued to be made firm in the faith and increase. Then indeed. Tell me about that statement. What do you make of it, and why is it so important?
Well, it was a big change, but the result was, as stated in the end of that verse, that it made them firm and it allowed them to increase. So it was a positive result.
Exactly. And it was this account back in November 2020 that really opened up the way to oversee this department for me, because we were going in a lot of places. Some things that were completely unanticipated, like COVID, like sending out our brothers into the field and getting data from all of our. Remember, our brothers who were chosen as media hosts at the time, Matt, they were getting ready for convention. We had chosen them for convention, then we activated them for the COVID reporting, and that was all new, and it tired them out. It was, but you know, by the end of that year, we got a beautiful lecture from Brother Sanderson, and the lecture was for the disaster relief committees that had been set up, and to all of them, and those disaster relief committees were told how the governing body looks at things, and he used this chapter in the Bible to talk about how the governing body they will go down a path. And they will continue to look at that path and knock on that door. And so it relates to this beautiful account in the Acts chapter 16. You might remember this account because the brothers, they were traveling with Paul, and Paul, they were going to find the place. They knew what to preach, but they didn't know where to preach. It says this is from the Imitate Their Faith book, the men must have been puzzled. They knew what to preach and how to preach, but they did not know where to preach. They had knocked, as it were, on the door leading to Asia, but in vain. They had knocked on the door leading to Bithynia, again in vain. Still, Paul was determined to keep on knocking until he found the door that would open. The point for Brother Sanderson, the thing that he was saying was that that's what the government body does. It's not always clear where to go. And so they knock, and if the door doesn't open, it's okay that they went down that path. They try another one. And so in the quarterly, right after that, I used that, and I talked about Brother Sanderson. And one of the things that was clear, one of the things we thought at the time, Matt, is that we had knocked on the door with the media, and the door flew wide open. That relates to the next point from that same Imitate Their Faith book. It says the men then made a decision that might have seemed erratic. They turned west and walked for 350 miles, bypassing city after city until they reached the port of Troas, the natural gateway to Macedonia. We remember that the Spirit stopped them from making visits, from staying in cities. There, for the third time, Paul knocked on a door, and yes, it swung wide open. When we looked at our efforts, not knowing, not having guidelines from the organization about what we should do, just having a general statement that we showed you, we realized Jehovah was blessing that. For that period of time, there was an incredible blessing. Jehovah had knocked open that door, knocked it down, and it was wide open for us. And it resulted in many, many, many thousands of positive media releases, some that got great attention and a great effect on the field.
Absolutely. And, we've seen that the results for PID speak for themselves. That door got knocked on and it got opened. But just like Paul, there's other doors that had to be knocked on. And so now there's a new door to open.
Mm-hmm. So we go back to the theme scripture for our discussion today and our whole quarterly meeting. This is what Jehovah says: stand at the crossroads and see. So what do we see? We're at a crossroads, Matt. We are standing at the crossroads, and we look back, Matt, on what has happened over nearly 4 years, and we have benefited from following the direction of the Spirit, following the direction of the Spirit appointed organization, following direction of the Holy Spirit on us as we make these decisions. And we're at a new place, and we're happy to share that new place. And still, it's going to keep some questions open, but I think 90% of all questions will be answered today about the future of the Public Information Department. We should say that there are guidelines that we expect over the next 3 to 6 months that will come, that will even provide more clarity to our mission. But we know exactly where we're going at the moment in order to implement the spirit of the direction from the governing body. Let's start with probably the most difficult subject for some, and that's the issue of video. So what do we know about video production, and where are we?
Sorry, you're asking me that question.
Well, you don't have to tell anybody. They see it on the screen.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so that is the one thing, if anything, that we're very convinced about is that the direction has become very clear from the organization for an adjustment when it comes to video production for PID. And that direction is that we'll no longer be involved with the production of videos, and that's even at conventions. Yeah,
so we're not going to be taking video at conventions at the moment. We may get new direction on that with our guidelines that are at the teaching committee right now. That'll be guidelines to the field. But our documentation work will no longer involve video. So most of you know that already because our video teams on a regional level have been shut down. But we're happy to say that even though we did this several weeks ago, we've gotten a positive reaction from the field. We'll talk about that in a moment. We'll still have a small team for training videos, and that will be important, that small core team. So there won't be a lot of teams, there won't be any teams regionally, but we'll still have those who know how to do videography that will be used on an ad hoc basis. We're no longer going to produce training videos at a regional level as well. And so our quarterly meetings have now become biannual. We're calling them quarterly here, but they're biannual. People know them by quarterly meetings. If you have a quarterly meeting set up before April, it's not going to happen because we've asked the brothers to put that off. And in April, your meeting will be generally about convention and how to reach out during conventions. And so we will be providing the training materials for that. I kind of feel that's a unification upgrade, don't you?
I really do. And, now with audio video at Patterson really taking the lead when it comes to video, it doesn't mean that PID won't be involved with video at all. As we said, training videos, that's still core to our work. But it makes sense, doesn't it, that this World Headquarter Department would take the lead with video production?
That's right. So we are right now in the process of consulting. We're in a consulting capacity for a video being done for World Headquarters, but it's being done under the oversight of AVS. We also have several video treatments that we have put into AVS. So the governing body has said you can do videos. It's just going to be under the auspices of the audio video department. We don't know how they're going to accomplish some of those field videos. We'll see what they also have their own field teams. It may be augmented by some of our folks who will then go over and work for AVS, perhaps on an ad hoc basis. We don't know exactly at the moment.
We'll wait and see.
But I guess that's kind of the most difficult news for the field, because video, even though it's a small part of what we should be doing, it was a big part of the joy.
And it's what PID was able to do great work with. Yeah. And the results spoke for themselves. We saw our PID videos in so many places. It was such an encouragement, but this is a change. and that's the direction. It's the good way, so we're going to follow it.
And frankly, as you know, we were shooting videos at a time when the audio video teams in the field were basically shut down. Mm-hmm. So that is no longer the case. They do have the capacity to do a lot of the things we had done. But now let's, if you will, I'll use your term, let's go to our bread and butter.
Inside joke. Yes.
PID media relations. Where are we going with this, Brother Ullman?
Well, following the spirit of the direction that we've already received, this is another area where we're going to make some refinements, and we're going to really try to focus our attention. So we're going to simplify and reduce our initiatives. And if anybody's gone on the pitching toolbox recently, they've seen a major overhaul.
Yeah, so on the pitching toolbox, you can see that it's retained localized initiatives, it's retained bullying, it's retained return to meetings. All of those are approved initiatives, but things like seasonal depression, gone. Mm-hmm. Let's see what we can get more specifics on this by bringing in Aaron Purvis. Aaron has been involved in these decisions, and Brother Purvis, talk a little bit to us about what are we doing for the future?
Yeah, so I think you made a good point there. We've done so many pitches in the past because it was during COVID. So we were creating things that we thought would be of great interest to the media, things like seasonal depression, schoolhouse, interracial marriages, things on nursing homes, but those things are going to be a distant past. Instead, now what's going to appear in the pitching toolbox will be things approved by oversight. And if they're in the pitching toolbox, and this is something that's going to be region-wide, you can feel comfortable at pitching those. Now, some may be thinking, well, that's going to do away with a tremendous part of our work. And to be quite honest, and especially in line with Brother Divine's talk, we hope that it does lighten your load to a certain degree to allow you to get more involved in your congregation and the ministry now that we're back full speed ahead. However, there's still going to be plenty of work for us to do. And here's the reason why. Our local regions will have specialized things that they'll do for their particular region based on what's happening with Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, for example, LDC. For the time of the pandemic, LDC was shut down. Now they are having the busiest year that they have ever had. And some of you already have got involved in pitching some of these LDC stories, and we've done so with great success. And so in your particular region, it may be in your state or in your town, here's something that's going on with LDC, you'll have that from start to finish. We know that that will keep our people very busy. In addition, there'll be things such as preaching campaigns. Those were all done away with when the pandemic started. Now they're coming back online again in the Midwest, in the Northeast, Portuguese, other foreign language preaching campaigns that'll happen in the Midwest, already scheduled, more to come. We think those will be great interest to the media, to have people traveling in to speak to specific language groups. Special metropolitan witnessing, that's back on board. And they have special things that they're doing at fairs and events. One just got approved the other day for In the Water Festival. I don't know what that is, but we're going to cover that. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a local interest to that community, and we'll be busy with it. In addition to other approved theocratic events that we will cover. So the fact is we're going to be busy. We're going to have great success. We're going to have stories that are more centric to Jehovah's Witnesses, which is very positive, but still we're going to keep a simple and modest approach, realizing, just as Brother Divine mentioned, there's important things that we're going to also accomplish just in our own congregation.
Yeah, and something that we've been saying here at the department, at the branch level, we have seen the difficulty, even with special metropolitan witnessing, to man their carts and to really have a full rollout of the program. Hopefully this will allow many of our thousands of volunteers to get back out and put more time out in the ministry. Don't you think, Aaron?
Yeah, that's going to be so positive just for all involved, because that is where we get a lot of our energy. That's where we get a lot of our good stories that we'll be able to use as we proceed along.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Thanks for your enthusiasm, too. It is very exciting. So just to recap on that, simplification, reduction of initiatives, we'll have approved press releases. And so we have one up now from on the Assembly Hall openings, and that was approved by World Headquarters, and that may actually go to the world, but we should be pitching that very soon. And that these theocratic events, Matt, I mean, it seems like we're getting at least 1 or 2 a day.
It's exciting. So we have a nice arrangement now with the service department. They've agreed to inform us well in advance before these events happen. And as you said, it seems like each day a new alert comes in from the service department about that, and we send them out to the regions. We really think that this work is going to be high value. It'll be low-hanging fruit with the media, and it will keep us busy.
And I think the thing too that the coordinators committee is looking at is the fact that even though we have many releases in many places and they appreciate the value of them, if you can actually get, like, let's say, good local press on a Kingdom Hall being built, an open house at a Kingdom Hall, women in the workforce, those types of things that we have for our LDC, and we're seeing them right now, that can have more of an effect on a small community than even something that goes into a UGC site that may have technically a larger audience.
It makes perfect sense. You know, a new building is built in a community, that's news locally. So we can leverage all of these local events and really show how Jehovah's Witnesses are part of the community, and the media shows interest in that.
Very good. And on UGC sites, we would say that that can be a thing of the past as well, except for convention. We would still establish UGC presence at convention, but some of our regions are taking many hours and days of man hours in order to upload our press releases on UGC sites. That can now be something of the past. When we do regionalize a story, whether it's, we have 10 public witnessing events in Florida, they're going to have to choose what to do because they're going to have to appoint a project team for each of those events. But when we do it, let's keep it modest and simple.
Along with the spirit of the direction.
Exactly, good. Yeah. So let's go on to experiences, because I think that this is such a positive part of our work, localizing experiences. It has been so beautiful to see the writing department, the writing committee, the branch committee have weekly releases, weekly experiences, and then to be used in the Watchtower, as some of them have, and even on JW Broadcasting on governing body updates. That's from your work. And frankly, it's not going to stop. In fact, let's bring in Brother Johnny Gonzalez, who heads up our branch content team. Johnny is a remote volunteer, but very much a part of our team here. If he were here right now, we'd hug him a lot, but he's coming live from, all right, I forgot, Fort Myers, Florida. How's the weather there, Johnny? It's cold, really. We can't hear you right now. Hopefully everybody else can. But I think I read your lips. You said it's cold.
Cold.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Upper 60s.
Oh, that's cold? All right. Anyway, Brother Johnny, what's happening with experiences? What should our brothers and sisters in the field know?
Well, as you mentioned, Robert, experiences are here to stay. So there's not many things that are different. Much is going to remain the same, but there are some noteworthy changes. So let's start with what will remain the same. Well, PID is going to continue to maintain a database of experiences, which means that we'll continue to send in experiences to the branch committee as well as to the writing department. And those experiences that we're sending in are coming from the great work that your volunteers are sending. So we ask that you please continue to remain attentive to those experiences. So we'll continue that. And as you submit those experiences, we ask that you do so in the normal protocol, PID protocol, submit them through the RCM tool, through the experience module. And if you have imagery to go along with it, we encourage you to send that with the proper releases attached. So here's the change. We're no longer going to canvass circuit overseers or elders from other congregations in search of experiences unless directed by the branch. So if we're looking for a very specific experience that we can't find in the RCM tool, then an assignment may be sent to the branch to look for that specific experience to neighboring congregations or to circuit overseers. But again, only directed by the branch. So what does this mean? Where will we find our experiences? As Brother Purvis mentioned, there's a number of initiatives that will happen as far as special preaching campaigns, conventions, or assemblies. So when it comes to those events, no doubt we'll find experiences there. But even in your local congregations, here's an example. Perhaps there's a sister, faithful sister, who's approaching 50 years of full-time service. And you hear about it in your congregation, you know about it, you know the sister personally. We'd be interested in hearing about that experience. So we encourage you to submit that to the RCM tool. So what do these changes really result in? Well, maybe in between initiatives that may mean that the submissions of experiences will reduce, but the quality of experiences submitted, we'll see, no doubt, will increase. So we look forward to the future. We look forward to the experiences that your team continues to submit, and no doubt it will continue to encourage the brotherhood branch-wide and worldwide.
Johnny, that was well said. I think you covered pretty much everything we really appreciate. We appreciate the work that's done by the branch content team, because you brothers and sisters really work hard at making these experiences live, getting them in shape for publication, putting them together, rating them, verifying the information, and then getting them to us. We do appreciate it, and we thank you for all the work that you and your team are doing. So go back to your 60 degrees while we deal with our 5 degrees, bro. And love to your family. Matt, really, when we look at experiences, really no direction has come, but we want to take the spirit of what we have been told regarding our work and apply it here.
That's right. And I really like the way Johnny made this point is we're still going to be involved. We're going to get good experiences, but we're just going to take a more measured approach. Probably the quality of what we do gather will go up. So looking forward to seeing where we go with this.
Next point. What is a drip campaign?
Well, you've seen a faucet with drips coming out.
You're so silly.
Drip campaign is at its essence when we make a promise to a media outlet that we will provide regular content to them on a schedule.
Mm-hmm. So you can see on the screen, you can see the bullying. That was one of our drip campaigns. But in order to drip, it needs to be regular, and we need to kind of make a promise, a commitment. Are we going to do that anymore? Let's bring in Tyrell Whiting. Some of you know that Tyrell is just with us for a few months now, but the vital part, that was Johnny. Wow, Johnny was, good thing you weren't doing anything that was bad, Johnny. You still had your tie on. Tyrell, nice to see you. Where are you coming from, Tyrell?
Live from the F basement.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. All right. So you're not too far away. That's why I hear you. So Tyrell, what's going on with drip campaigns?
Yeah, so with drip campaigns, we typically think of due date, right? We have to provide content. We have to put in a significant amount of energy in order to meet the needs that we had promised. Well, as we saw on the screen, simply that's going to change. The faucet is going to drip a little bit less. So what's in our pitching toolbox? That's what we're going to pitch. That's an approved pitch. We can take that and do that. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be any localizations at all. There are going to be approved localizations, approved pitches that will require some energy from the regions. And so in those cases where we're providing local content for that, well, we will then want to keep our approach simple and modest.
Well, Tyrell, thank you very much, Brother Whitey. It's good to have you here in our PID team, and thank you for sharing that with us. Brother Whitey is going to be now involved with the national media outreach. We're taking that on a branch level, and he and Brother Worlds are going to coordinate that so that we develop national relationships from PID, which is typical for the world. In the PID world, that's the way it's usually been. And we haven't gotten a lot of traction yet from the national media, the big newspapers. We look forward to Tyrell's efforts. So thank you, Tyrell, for that work. Now, drip campaigns are something that this is going to disappoint some of our PC reps because they have established these relationships. Some of them have the key to the websites. Some of them are being asked for information. And they're like, why wouldn't we give them information if we have it? Why not?
Well, again, I have to join you in acknowledging the hard work that has to go in to develop a relationship to get to that point. But here's the spirit of what we're doing now is that we're keeping our work measured and modest. So the PC reps will go to the pitching toolbox, they'll pitch what's there, and if there's no more content to pitch, then they won't pitch.
That's right. And what happens with the drip campaign is we make a promise and we want to keep it, and we're not going to be able to now.
Yeah.
So it's not that we're not going to have releases like bullying up there. We may have, for example, disaster preparedness this year, but we may choose not to have it. But we want to make that choice. We don't want to feel obligated to provide content to media anymore. We'll provide it when we have it, when we'll do the most good for the organization, and also keep our brothers and sisters in the ministry. So.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the branch editorial team. Now, the branch editorial team is near and dear to my heart. It was something that I personally started nearly 2.5 years ago, and I love each one of them dearly, dearly. So what's happening with BET? Let's bring in Brother Alejandro Leon, who has been working with the BET for the last year and a half. Brother Alejandro, affectionately we call you Dro. Talk to us. What's happening with BET? Are they going away?
No, well, the BET still has plenty of work to do. Primarily, BET will be writing all press releases that will be submitted to World Headquarters for approval. This includes releases for theocratic events such as the Special Talk, the Memorial, as well as conventions, or any other initiative that we'll submit to World Headquarters for approval. In addition to those things, the BET will continue to train writers on effective localizations. And lastly, the BET will be assisting the branch with newsroom pitches, writing, and editing.
Very nice. So they're still a vital part of our work, still a vital part of our team. But hopefully these BET members who have spent a tremendous amount of time in meetings in the last 2.5 years, they have spent many days and days and days in meetings collectively, and they've spent a lot of time in research and work. They have been the ones who have been behind all of these initiatives, like, for example, seasonal depression. And now we'll take their work and we'll slim it down, and hopefully they too will be able to spend more time doing other initiatives and other things, perhaps for other departments. But we suspect that some of our BET members will be too busy for that. But we hope that they'll be more involved in their congregation and their field activities. Thank you, Brother Leon, and for all you do with the BET. Well, Matt, this team is very important to us. But let's take this one point or 2 points. One is training. Mm-hmm. We're still going to have writing teams in the regions. We're not sure how large they will be. We'll need them for conventions. We'll need them for localizations. We'll need them for theocratic events, right? So we're still going to need to train.
Yeah, and if there's anything we've learned is that writing is something that just doesn't come naturally to everyone. It's a trained skill. So these brothers will be busy with training. Yeah,
and sisters, mostly sisters actually, and even if they know how to write, they may not know how to write stuff for us. And that brings us to the second point: is newsroom, and that's something that you dealt with for about a year. What are some of the opportunities for newsroom?
I'm excited about this. You and I both have had conversations with brothers at World Headquarters. We've both heard this theme. We'd like to see more newsroom articles from the United States, specifically from our supervised lands. So I think there's opportunity there for that group to focus on that, and it'll be nice to see the potential for more newsroom articles like that.
Outstanding. Well, what about our branch production team? Many of you know that our branch production team, or maybe you don't know, has been primarily, if you would, to take a look at their work, primarily about video production. But we're going to bring in Michael Muncy now to talk to us about the changes with our branch production team and how they're feeling about it right now. Brother Muncy, how's your group doing in light of the fact that we're no longer doing video?
The team is doing absolutely amazing. It really shows their spirituality and being able to cooperate and willingness to make these adjustments as quick as they did.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, they'll still be involved with some level of editing, probably not shooting, but who knows, we'll see, because they're going to be involved in training. Talk about what they will be involved in so I don't steal your thunder.
Well, it's exciting. Still, the branch production team has wonderful work ahead. And some of it is going to include assisting and creating with the pitching documents still, which is vitally important. We're also going to be working on graphic design projects, too, that will be needed for PID. We also will be assisting with imagery projects. So that's exciting to see the different areas that we'll work with on that. We're also excited we will assist and help with branch training materials, which is very key and important, as you mentioned earlier. And then finally, we're so happy to be able to work with all of you brothers and sisters in the regions on localizing theocratic events. So a lot ahead for us.
No doubt about it, Michael. And thank you for you being so flexible. We're going to see a little bit more of that about your story later, but how did you feel when you were in the meeting, you had no idea this was coming, and this was about a month ago, and I said, we're no longer going to be doing video production. I think I saw your body language.
Yeah, I pretty much, my heart dropped, everything, had a million questions. I think I even told you that. I have about 1 million questions for you, but I knew I had to wait and be patient.
Yes, and I think you took out your handkerchief. But you know, and it kind of speaks to something right now, Michael, is that we've all had time to digest this, to pray about it, to really see Jehovah's hand over the last month and a half as we've been tacking and getting clear direction. And we're in a different place maybe than many of the others in the field who are hearing this the first time, don't you think?
Absolutely, yes.
So thank you very much for you and Liana. You're here for another few months, and we appreciate the sacrifice you've made to be with us. Thank you, Michael, for all the work you've done doing the BPT, and we thank them. They're here, I'm sure. We thank them, and they know we love them. So BPT, great team. They've been amazing to us, and I really think that they're going to focus there. They were, you know, let's face it, you know, I would say, Michael, so what is BPT doing? Oh, we have 80 different projects going at the same time. I'd say, Michael, why do we have 80 projects going at the same time? Because you want them. Okay, well, that's done. So maybe we'll have 8, 10, and we'll have the team feel good about doing other things with their time and energy and really focusing on our training. That's a big deal, you know, because when you look at the training that we have been doing, it has been really regionally based, and we told the regions that they needed to train their people. We could only do so much, but now I think we'll transfer that to the branch.
Yeah, the regions have done phenomenal in creating training materials, and a lot of those training materials actually came in and then were used in other regions. But by bringing it all, consolidating it, it allows us to have continuity. So I think that team is going to have plenty of work.
Oh, I agree with that. Well, BMS team, many people don't even know BMST exists. You know, see how that rolls off my tongue, BMST? The BMST, the Branch Media Strategy Team. We're going to bring in Brother Warren to talk a little bit about what the Branch Media Strategy Team will be doing. Because Brother Warren, correct me if I'm wrong, they worked very closely with the Branch Editorial Team, didn't they, to create pitches. Isn't that true?
Absolutely, yeah. We met every week together and discussed the pitches and different ideas. So, you know, very instrumental in that process.
So what is their work going to consist of now?
Well, primarily it's going to focus on 2 major areas, training and media outreach. And so the training part of it is really to provide more consistent and effective training to our local spokesmen. And that's a really important function, especially when it comes to making cold pitches or cold calls to the media, pitching various stories. So the Branch Media Strategy Team will be able to provide that even more effectively. And we've kind of had a little pilot program that Paris Sanders has been working with, and Bill Cardokas, Royce Porkert, and you know, the other brothers too. I'm sorry, I can't remember their names right now, but they've been working with providing this training throughout the regions, and it's really helpful because it's not an easy thing approach media outlets and make those calls.
Mm-hmm.
The other aspect is in reference to the outreach itself. So the branch media strategy team will consult with the branch on approved media initiatives, how to implement that, how to incorporate that in the training sessions that they're having as well. And they're also going to assist in the formation and execution of the national media outreach strategy. And so the branch media strategy team will be working very closely with Jason Worlds and Tyrell Whiting, as you mentioned. We'll be working very closely with them in terms of implementing something that will work. Because when you think about the national media outlets, as you acknowledged earlier in the program, it's very difficult to get coverage and even stories done at the national media level. So we're really going to try to work hard to develop that and maybe develop contacts with the national media outlets so that we can get some coverage.
Outstanding. Well, they've done a tremendous job with what they called the TPC training. Now
Yes.
we're calling it the media outreach training
Yes.
for local spokesmen.
Which is a good thing because that kind of eliminates, TPC training is a
little redundant.
little redundant.
Right,
So media outreach training
Mhm.
is going to be much more effective.
We don't want them to use the acronym though, MOT.
No MOTS.
I don't think that'll work. With media outreach training for local spokesmen, it almost works for motels. But
We'll leave the light on for them.
okay.
That's for sure.
Whoa.
But I mean, another thing that I think is really good about that is, I think it's going to be really empowering for our local spokesmen. Honestly, sometimes just the concept of having to do a media interview may be somewhat intimidating, but this training is really going to help empower them and give them the confidence that they need to do this. Kind of like what Richard Devine was speaking of with his interaction with OPI. We're going to provide that service through the branch media strategy team to help these brothers to get the confidence they need to be able to really speak the messages clearly to their local media.
Outstanding, Brother Warren. Thank you for all you've done with BMSD, and we look forward to them continuing their work. Brother Ullman, BMSD has been important, will be more important, I think, as we move forward with this new local spokesman training. We're going to allow them to continue the local spokesman training as of January 1, but we also are going to turn over that training to Aaron Purvis so that we can work along with the BPT on a training module that can be branch approved and that can be create consistency throughout the branch territory.
Yeah, I see all of these teams, the pivots that we're making, these adjustments, they're all refinements, and they're all helping these brothers manage their time, but with very clear direction from the branch. I think we're heading in the right direction.
I do too. I'm very excited. Now, for many of you, what you're probably thinking of is, well, what's going on with me? And we get it. Now, we understand that is a concern. And so let's just go over some of the points related to what's going on with you. So the spirit of the direction from our oversight is this. It comes in this statement. It is important that the PID uses opportunities to communicate effectively with its various audiences. It is equally important that time, personnel, and resources are used on projects that bring the greatest benefit. And then they cited this scripture, Colossians. You'll know it well. Colossians chapter 4. And in Colossians chapter 4, verse 4, if I can't bring it up, you have to look it up. Oh, no, here it is. Hey, we got it. 5 and 6. And the former part is the most important as it relates to what we're talking about. Go on walking in wisdom toward those on the outside, making the best use of your time. Then it talks about being gracious and having our words seasoned with salt. So this is the guiding principle, Matt. The guiding principle being make the best use of everybody's time in PID. And so in the spirit of that, we have to make good decisions from a staffing perspective. So let's go on to those decisions. Let's talk about PID and local volunteers. First, I think you'll be happy to know there will be no changes to current Bethel remote volunteers or Bethel occasional consultants, unless the individual chooses not to stay with PID or no longer qualifies. And so there'll be no changes. So those who are BRVs and BOCs will remain BRVs and BOCs. There is a caveat that those who are in the pipeline right now, which is several hundred of you, we're holding at the moment, and that will be until further notice. Those who only work with videography and who may not feel inclined to work in another area of PID may make a personal decision to formally resign or not. So it's up to you. We won't push you out, and we would love to use you in another area if that is the case. I'll give you an example of where we need you. For you brothers who are videographers or editors or audio who are elders, we need you as local spokesmen at convention. So please make yourself available for that responsibility. Finally, all PCRFs working with conventions will now be called local spokesmen for conventions. Actually, the term is local spokesman, but it is specifically for conventions and may occasionally be used for interviews related to other issues if needed. So that's the bulk of it, Brother Ullman. On our volunteers, we have a little bit more, but how do you feel so far?
I think it's good. I think, this is the point we've all been waiting for, is what does it mean for me? We're following the spirit of the direction, but as we can see from this is we're not telling anybody to go away. But as was stated, if you're a videographer and there's other theocratic opportunities that you want to pursue, we don't want to hold you back. At the same time, there's plenty of work to be done in PID. Excellent point. And we were specifically told by our oversight, do not do anything with your numbers. That is not something we want you to look at now, and specifically because guidelines are coming, and that's our next point. Let's go on to our next group of lists. So when it comes to our PID volunteers, let's see if there we go. How about this? Our first bullet point, we're expecting PID guidelines. So I think we've said that already. We've been saying that for a couple of years, but we know that they are not only in the works, some of them are already with the governing body being reviewed. We expect convention guidelines will come before convention, and we're looking forward to that. What makes that important is the fact that since we are expecting guidelines, we think that at the time we get those guidelines, some of our personnel can be reassigned to other PID endeavors and work. For example, we will have further clarity on media and government and academic parameters, and it may be in those fields that we use those who might have been working in other areas. And finally, we would encourage all PID volunteers to continue to be prayerfully assessing where Jehovah may want you to serve and maximize your participation in congregational and ministry activities. Isn't that right? Isn't that what generally this is all about, my friend? It really is what it's all about. We are trying so hard to capture the spirit of this direction. We want to be balanced. We want to make time for our PID work because it's important, but we also want time for these other theocratic activities. And the path that we're on, the good road, is going to allow all of us with good decision making to do that. Outstanding. The road ahead, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about the road ahead for you, for the Public Information Department? We will be memorializing all of this in a memo to the field over the next several weeks, so you'll get this in writing, and also there'll be a replay of this coming up, a recording. We look forward to that as well. So thank you for being with us today. Also, thank you very, very much for the work that you have put in the last 4 years. I know it's sometimes we say this a lot, the Hebrews 6:10. Jehovah does not forget your work, and your work has been stellar. It's very clear that Jehovah has blessed that work, and we could not have accomplished the things that we are accomplishing and we have accomplished without you. The fact is, right now, the Public Information Department is a very important part of the branch organization all over the world. And our priorities are changing, and they should. Now that the governing body understands where it needs to go, what we are able to do and capable of doing, they are adjusting their vision for us, and we are grateful for that. Because just like with Paul and with Silas and with Timothy, when they took those messages to the congregation from the governing body, and the congregations obeyed, subjected themselves, and in time submitted to the direction, they prospered. We have done that over the last nearly 4 years. We will continue to do that, and we will continue to prosper. The road ahead
is good. A message to our affiliates out there. We're probably going to go a little over time, so we appreciate your patience on it. This was very important. We couldn't shortchange you. We know that this was very important to you. But we also now have a very important part of our discussion, and that's about conventions. And to join us here about conventions is a man by the name of Aaron Purvis. Aaron, we just saw you remotely. We had you in a satellite uplink.
Yeah, it was in the top floor of the Radisson.
Is that right? My goodness,
No,
it was
just in my dreams.
Okay. Well, our theme for our conventions really comes from Psalm 19. The heavens are declaring the glory of God. The skies above proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day, their speech bubbles forth, and night after night, they reveal knowledge. You'll see this as a theme scripture in our guidelines that you should be reading on convention. And the reason why, of course, the psalmist wrote this beautiful Psalm of David is because we could see Jehovah's hand, his handiwork, his creative work, his artistry, so evident all around us, in the sky and all around us, just looking in the mirror. But then it goes on to say in that same chapter, there is no speech, there are no words, their voice is not heard, but into all the earth their sound has gone out, and to the ends of the earth their message. Yes, that's creation, but it's also the things Jehovah has theocratically created. Look what you see. Look at that peaceful group of people at MetLife in the hot 150-degree sun, and they are loving it. Maybe not the sun, but that spiritual paradise. And everybody who was associated with that convention and saw that convention, the message went out, and it really brought great honor to Jehovah. And that's what our conventions do, don't they?
It really does. And just like the stars of the heaven, they don't have to say anything. They're just present. And just being present gives a witness to Jehovah. And it's the same with our conventions. I thought I could just share an account that highlights that just very nicely. This appeared actually in an old Awake magazine, but it was entitled A Letter of Complaint. And it was published in the Glen Falls Post-Star after one of our conventions. And it said just simply this: last week, Jehovah's Witnesses came from all over Glen Falls for a convention. I just don't know how much longer we can tolerate such revolting behavior. Nobody smoking pot, nobody under the influence of drugs or alcohol, no head-splitting, ear-deafening music, no immoral songs, no illicit sex, no ticket scalping, no yelling, no screaming, no pushing, no shoving, no fighting to get in and out of lines, no one swearing or cursing, women wearing dresses and looking like women, men with neat-looking haircuts wearing suits and ties looking respectable, husbands arm in arm with their own wives, parents and children together as families, no one throwing beer cans or soda cans on Glenfall lawns. It was really unusual. I mean, what in God's name was going on? And then it asked this powerful question: would it be so awful if more of us would act like that? Makes one wonder, doesn't it? And so I just thought that ties in so well with your scripture with the stars. These ones didn't know they were even giving a witness, but a witness was being given. And what an opportunity we're going to have to highlight that to the media as we go back to our conventions.
I agree. I think we have a slide on the impact of conventions now, and you think about they attract attention because they're large events. Glens Falls is a small, tiny city in upstate New York. When we come to town, we blow it away. They have an economic, social, and spiritual impact. The public gets to see firsthand of Jehovah's organization and Bible teachings. And conventions are a time when Jehovah's people shine. I mean, we are on our best behavior. This picture from here is from Phoenix, the International Convention. But you could see we take over a city. It was quite an impact that our internationals had. But it's just as big of an impact in places like Bloomington Normal, in places like Indiana. Where do we go in Indiana? But in the smaller locations, Rochester, Minnesota. It has an impact on the community.
It doesn't interest the people. People are interested in Jehovah's Witnesses anyways, but when we converge as a group, so many different nationalities, so many different languages, different ages, it's really a remarkable thing to see, and they see our identifying mark of love.
Indeed, yeah. So for PID, what is our role at conventions? If we were to kind of summarize it, we would say draw public attention to the convention, using a comprehensive media strategy, provide a community relations and media response to emergency and notorious events, and then finally document the event. Let's talk about these 3 points. first of all, bringing attention. What does it mean, a comprehensive media strategy, Aaron?
We're going to get together a great plan. I think teaching's working on some things right now. We'll be able to take a look at that. We'll be able to incorporate those things, follow their instructions. We'll be able to talk about the venues, the areas. We'll be able to get some localized stories, and we can get just a great package specially designed for that venue site. I think Jehovah will bless that work.
Now, you're one of the few people here at the branch, along with myself, who served as news service coordinator, media service coordinator.
Yeah.
You didn't serve as a media host, though. But,
no, I didn't make that one.
But tell me about your past.
Yeah,
your
that was always such an exciting time at the convention, having the media come in, holding your breath during the interview to make sure that you said something right, because there just wasn't a lot of training then. And then also the experience gathering. You'll remember that. You would always look for these great experiences to share with the brother giving the last talk, and you would just hope that he would use one of those great experiences in the concluding talk. It was just a real enjoyable time.
It was. Yeah, that was, I have to say, that was the highlight, the experience gathering, and to see if Brother Sidlick would use it. I can still recall when Brother Sidlick and our other brothers who are prominent brothers would take our stuff and say, hey, this is good enough to talk about at the end. Here, there's a little picture here to the right of our graphic, and it's of Jason Hole. He's escorting the media in Phoenix, and we had every station, every media outlet that was that responded to our Love Never Fails International Convention. It was something else. You could see Jehovah's blessing on it. But then there's a second point here that's mentioned, Aaron, about emergency or notorious event. Well, I didn't know we had anything to do with that.
Yeah, this is going to be something completely new for us. And anybody that watches the news knows that these notorious events seem to happen every week, and they affect our brotherhood. Here we're going to be gathered together in these venues. We're going to do our level best to keep things safe. But if there is something that happens that is traumatic, PID, and specifically those local spokesmen, are going to need to know how to handle those situations in the right way.
Yeah, indeed. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. We know that Jehovah's Angels have protected our conventions. We also know that bad things happen to Jehovah's people. We don't know how Jehovah balances those things. We just don't. We don't know how high the hedge is. And we don't know whether something will happen in this system of things, whether there'll be a shooting at a Kingdom Hall or at a convention, or whether we'll have a bomb or a bomb threat or a shooting or a significant event. We have had, even at local assembly halls here, somebody mow down on the sidewalk. So the responsibility will be to take control of that event from a media and community perspective. Finally, the documentation of the event. Our documentation team is going to be really important. Well, why is that something that's key?
I think especially for this first set of conventions, we are not being back in 3 years. This is going to be a remarkable event, and we know we're going to want to have that covered. Who knows what will come from it? So documenting what's happening, the experiences, what the look, the feel, the highlights of it. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we have a new module on the RCM that we're going to be rolling out in just a moment. Let's talk a little bit about convention committees, because they're obviously key to working at a convention. Convention committees are in charge, period. And now they're not in charge of PID, but they oversee the program and the venue. And therefore, even though they're not our oversight, they come under a different branch department, the service department. Our brothers are directly supervised by the regional spokesman and then have a direction from the branch. We still recognize that the committee's interests and concerns we have to respect, and that we have to have a contact. And who's our contact now, Aaron, on the convention committee?
That's going to be our convention committee coordinator, which is an adjustment from when we used to do it. It used to be the program overseer, but he has a lot of responsibility. He's coordinating the event. They're responsible for all of the things happening there physically at the facility with the people, so on and so forth. So that's why we're happy we're going to have such qualified spokesman. We know that they'll be able to work very, very well with that, hand in glove. They'll respect this brother and his many responsibilities, and we know he'll respect our local spokesman as well.
Absolutely. Now there is a role for the contract rep, but we'll be working through the convention committee coordinators. Sometimes they're one and the same. If we have to deal with a venue official like the press office or their public relations or community relations office, then we'll go through the convention committee coordinator. He may hook us up or connect us, excuse me, with the contract rep, and that may happen as well in advance of the convention. But let's talk a little bit about staffing, because this is something that is directly actually from our guidelines. So let's look at our staffing direction. First of all, the number of local spokesmen and documentation team members depends on the size of the convention. Mm-hmm. So we're going to leave that to the brothers, aren't we, Aaron? We're going to say the principle. Here's some guidelines, and the principle applies. Why is that?
Because each one's going to be different, especially when you're talking about even assembly halls. They're different in size and scope. So just for our staffing, just as a general principle, it would be good to have 2 local spokesmen. They are somebody in training, somebody there helping with the office, and then someone on the content side with taking pictures, maybe even a writer.
Excellent. So about our assembly halls. Now we have 711 or so conventions in the United States right now. The majority of them, I believe, or close to at least half, are in assembly halls. Now, not all assembly halls are created equal, but let's give this direction, and we can put it back on the screen. So there'll be 2 local spokesmen who may be attending the convention who are on call and will be in close proximity to the facility. The local spokesman, meaning the PC, now we call them the PC rep, local spokesman, though now they are, will check with the convention committee in the morning, with 1 local spokesman staying within 30 minutes of the venue at all times. So that's a little complicated. It's in the guidelines, but the point being that we don't want 2 capable men sitting in their seat on a Saturday morning if they don't have to sit there. Get them out in service. But to have them, but if they need to be within half an hour of the facility because they need to be on call. We would also prefer those men to have actually been assigned to the convention, so they will be sitting in a seat. But there are some drawbacks to that.
Yeah, there are. Perhaps a person that has an opportunity to have some responsibility in a heavy position, maybe the attendant overseer, for example. We wouldn't want him to avoid that assignment where he could gain vast experience to participate as the local spokesman in an assembly hall where the chances of them being used maybe won't be as high. Maybe what they could do is take the attendant assignment and then take another assignment just with PID. Then they wouldn't miss the convention anyways.
Yeah, here's an idea. So we want you brothers to get experience at the convention. We want our local spokesman, not our regional spokesman. We've already discussed that with our key people, but our local spokesman who are working at a convention, we want them to get experience. So if you have 12 conventions at an assembly hall, choose one where you're willing to work for the convention committee and choose another where you're willing to work for PID. Work at the convention committee level. You won't get any of the program anyway because you'll be sitting at a desk. The next time, work for PID and sit in your chair and enjoy it, and you probably won't get a call from the media, and there won't be a notorious event, right?
2 birds with 1 stone.
Exactly, and it just seems to make perfect sense. But of course, we'll let that decision be made locally. Finally, large assembly halls, places like West Palm, Romeoville, maybe even Jersey City.
Some of them will have 5,000 people in attendance, so we'd want to handle those differently.
Yeah, let's take a look at the staffing org chart real briefly. We'll bring that up. The staffing org chart is basically, it's pretty simple. And once it goes full screen, you'll see it. And the staffing org chart really, if you probably see it now on the screen, but I'm going to try and get it up there. Let's do this. How about that? There you go. So you have the regional spokesmen that are in charge. So they are the ones who are ultimately all local spokesmen report to. So you'll have 2 local spokesmen assigned to every convention. That is per our guidelines. Obviously, if one gets COVID or if you have to be available. Then we're looking forward to having an office assistant in most places, maybe not assembly halls, and some level of documentation team. Feel free to collapse these. A local spokesman might be able to take a photograph, might be a really good writer, and may have a wife who can work the baptism with the sisters. So feel free to minimize this as much as you need to. And then we'll have a local spokesman coordinator in places where there'll be multiple conventions, in cities where there'll be multiple conventions, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's talk about that right now, actually. The local, well, first of all, we'll talk about the regional spokesman. What is the regional spokesman's responsibility? Maybe you can go through that, Aaron.
Yeah, their responsibility really hasn't changed. They're going to be responsible for selecting all of these capable people that will work at all of these different venues and keeping that organized. Then if there is something that transpires or something that happens, they're going to be hopefully involved with those matters too on a much higher level.
It's a great picture of Tim Weaver. He right there is in Miami. Yeah, and he's dealing with a member of the media. She happens, I think she might have been a sister who came, but so there'll be local spokesman coordinators at each convention that the regional spokesman will be dealing with. They'll also make the initial contact with the convention committee coordinator. So once we appoint a brother for that convention, we'll make the introduction. We'll make sure the introduction happens. It's the regional spokesman's responsibility to do that. And of course, they'll make sure that there is a media campaign, unique one, in place for each of the conventions. Let's go on now to the local spokesman at conventions. What are their responsibilities? They're pretty extensive, Aaron.
Yeah, they do have a heavy role. First of all, they're going to be in charge of the media outreach. They'll also help with the documentation, making sure that the project leads have given them good things that they'll be able to use there or to document the event itself. When it comes to meeting these media professionals, whether they're scheduled or unscheduled, they're going to take care of them once they arrive on site, vetting the journalist, helping them get in, giving them a press pass, the media tours, a lot. And that's just to really get started. There's other things they're responsible for.
Yeah, let's go on to our next point related to the local spokesman. Approve and arrange interviews. Well, I just went to the wrong one, but approve and arrange interviews. Go ahead.
Yep, supervise and handle even uncooperative journalists, which may very well happen in some of our areas. Again, when there's an emergency that happens or a notorious event, a child has went missing, they haven't been able to find the child, we're going to have to give good training on that. I know that'll be coming in March, but also speaking with the media and being willing to give the interview. They'll need training. We're going to provide that. And then, of course, a final report at the end, lessons learned, things we want to continue, perhaps things we want to avoid for the following year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this too is in Miami. This is it Miami? Yes, I believe it's Miami. That's Jason Hull, who used to work with PID, now is with OPI. But the local spokesmen have a big responsibility, and they're probably saying at the moment, well, all that, I'm not trained. That's right, you're not trained yet. But we'll have that training on February 11th with convention committees, and then we'll have another training in March at our quarterly. We'll spend a lot of time with our local spokesman on convention, and then we'll have regional training in April that we are looking forward to. Now, the local spokesman coordinator for all convention cities, including assembly halls where multiple conventions take place, a local spokesman coordinator will coordinate the effort. Now, in our day, Aaron, when we were back in the day, we used to call it a news service coordinator or a media services coordinator. What were some of their roles?
So they would help to make sure that they had the media packets, that they weren't covering the same, perhaps, media outlets all at the same time. If there was one that covered it, then they could focus on another one to get them to come cover it. And then just making sure that staffing was there, which I think will be a huge challenge. You already mentioned it. COVID is still present. We wouldn't be surprised if someone got COVID and they weren't able to attend when they had all of the training. Those things are going to happen. So finding someone to fill in, perhaps even last minute.
Yeah, so communication is the key. It's not that this coordinator is another level of oversight. They're not. They're just a local spokesman that's coordinating the effort. And so it's like a coordinator of a body of elders, right? They're not the lead elder, but they're taking the coordination. They're making sure things are happening. They're funneling thoughts from the regional spokesman from the branch and making sure that's happening. And also that initial meeting. I remember as a media services coordinator with 13 conventions at an assembly hall, we would have 100 people at a meeting, our kickoff organizational meeting about the meeting. I think that's so good too, to be able to have those meetings and create that communication, don't you?
I agree. It's going to just be positive. You have that well explained.
Yeah. So documentation, I think that means go on.
No, I was just thinking you explained it much better than the way that I explained it.
No, like move on, Hendricks.
No, we're good.
Documentation. Documentation at conventions. We know we're kind of avoiding the term content teams here. Not that we don't have content, we do. But really, it's a documentation activity. Look at this beautiful baptism picture, Aaron.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the type of thing we want.
That's right. And I was thinking he may have a very interesting story too that we would want to capture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we'll have people there that will be able to accomplish these things and these beautiful photographs along the way.
Yeah, so key moments during the convention, pre-convention, move-in, first day baptism, first day, baptism, final day. So there's a lot to do from a documentation. Gathering experiences, though, is something that we're going to talk about in our module for the RCM. But why is that so important?
Because that's what we get great stories from. That's where we get these good experiences. And the branch committee does like hearing experiences such as that, and so do we. And you never know how they'll be used. So when you have something that's very compelling, taking the time to write it down will be important.
I have a feeling that among the 711 conventions, we're going to get out of 1,500 or 2,000 experiences that we'll get, we'll have 50 or 100 that will be outstanding. Just crazy stuff, especially related to convention and first time back.
Yeah, I liked what you said earlier about there being a gem, a diamond that we'll find there. You know that'll happen.
Yeah. So here's our convention campaign timeline. We're just going to go over this briefly. It just shows you the scope of what you're in for, right? It starts in January for most. Of course, if you're in late August, maybe it won't start in January, but certainly starts for the regional spokesman in January, recommending those who will serve, beginning in-person visits with the media, refining the media list for each convention city, brainstorming ideas for feature localizations, beginning personal pitches, communicating with, we're calling them PC reps here, with the local spokesman and the regional spokesman and coordinators, generating story ideas. You can see that this is something that starts really right now.
It does show the scope of work. There's going to be a lot of responsibility here, and there'll also be a lot of reward.
You can see also some examples of press releases. We have 8 thoughts. We don't know if they'll come to fruition, but we imagine at least some or all of them will. The first is already here. It's an approved release that's already in the pitching toolbox with the pitching document, the assembly halls reopening, but also convention venues schedule reopening. So as an example, Aaron, if we get that release approved by World Headquarters, which we expect will be approved, and that should be in the next several weeks, we'll put that out in the pitching toolbox. And let's say, for example, Bloomington Normal, we're using this venue again. What kind of story will that be for the, what do they call, the pantograph?
The pantograph.
Right?
They're going to be so excited.
You know, they've been waiting for 3 years to have us back. They've asked, I'm sure, just like a lot of other venues have asked, when are you coming back? Because they want us to be there. So those are going to be just easy things for us to cover.
And if we're going back to Evansville and Huntsville and Rochester, right. It's Wilkes-Barre. These are going to be big stories. Reading, it's going to be big stories. So we'll leverage that big story probably around February to April, depending on when your convention is. And then another themed release we're hoping is announcement of the convention theme. So whether that's whatever it's going to be, it's you know, courageous, peaceful, lovable, loving people. Yeah, right. What are we going to do this year? But that the theme has always been something that the branch interview has thrived on. So we've done it in Toledo several years. We've done it down in Alabama several years running. We've done it in other places. So it's probably the only point in this campaign where a branch interview might be viable.
I think so. Plus, giving the entire scope, some of these places are going to have multiple conventions there. I think it'll garner great interest.
Good. And then the pre-convention release, that'll be 2 to 3 weeks before the convention. Convention week release, first day of convention release, baptism release, and then the feature release. We feel that some or all of these 8 elements of the campaign. So this will take time, it will take resources, it will take thinking, and we have a new help for this. It's, if you can believe it, it's the RCM tool. You know that we love to roll out these bells and whistles. We're going to bring in Bill Bushong, Brother William Bushong, who we love dearly. Someday we'll have him here live for you to see him. But He's coming remotely from where in Massachusetts? No, are you in New Hampshire or Massachusetts?
Massachusetts, Salem,
Okay,
Massachusetts.
Where?
Salem.
Salem. Oh, right, the witch trials. That's right.
The witch trials.
Well, Bill, you have something to show us today, and I'm totally stoked about it.
Yeah, we are too. We've been waiting 2.5 years, if not longer, to finally get this module together, and we're happy to share it with you all. Obviously, things are going to get adjusted as we get closer, but very soon, in the next week or two, you will see this new button pop up called Conventions and Assemblies. And for those that have an assignment at a convention or an assembly, when they click that, they'll get a list of all the events that they are part of and what they can do. But we're going to look as if we were a spokesman right now, or excuse me, a regional spokesman, I should say. And when you go into it, you'll get this map. Now don't get excited.
I'm excited.
Don't start booking hotel. I know, right? Well, don't book hotel rooms because this is all fake data.
Oh, it's all fake data. All right. Man, I'm going to get the Marriott, JW Marriott in Maryland.
Right? So we're going to just zoom in on one of these here. Let's go on to this event. And so we see here that this particular venue actually has 2 events at it. You know, notice the first one says no in red letters. That's because it's not staffed yet. It doesn't have the brothers assigned to it that needs to be, whereas the second one, it is. So let's take a look into that. You can see as regional spokesman that this is a very helpful feature in seeing that. But when you get in, you're going to have this dashboard where you can pull up a map. You can see who the oversight is. So as an example here, we can see who the regional spokesmen are. And then you can also see who the local spokesman and local spokesman coordinator, as you just spoke of, Robert, all right here, ready to work.
You know, I'm so impressed, Bill, that Chase is coming all the way from Hawaii to this convention on the East Coast. I mean, that is a self-sacrificing spirit.
You know, he's that excited. Yeah, absolutely. we commit him as well.
Halfway around the world to work that convention.
As long as we can go there afterwards. So moving on, we can actually see who on the program is part of this, the convention committee, the program overseer, roaming overseer. All that information is going to be pre-populated for us so that we can see that. We can even upload PDFs. You can see this is one from a few years ago. Typically, we'll get this as the meetings are starting to kick off, and this will just be here for all the weeks if we need it, so that we can easily see the venue and where things are. We also have tasks that we're all very familiar with. Thankfully, because of the training we received up to now, it'll be very easy to create tasks, assign them to people even before the convention. We can keep track of contacts. So maybe we need to know who the overseer of cleaning or the attendant department or any of these other critical departments that we may interact with as part of the convention. These non-PID contacts can be put into this tab and referenced at any time quickly on our mobile device, our desktop, or whatever. And then here's a feature that I think we'll really appreciate based upon what we've been talking about thus far, is the ability to quickly create an experience. So if we hear something or our team hears something that is remarkable, we can just go ahead and create an experience here and go through that same process that Johnny was talking about before, where we can get model releases and the details of the stories and pictures, put it all right there, ready to go. Very powerful. That's and amazing. We feel that it's going to get used a lot.
That's going to be a game changer for our experiences. And, you know, even though some of the experiences may dip over the next few months, it's going to just spike up when that comes out. Now, you have also a module that you've replicated that from the sites that do this for a living to outreach to the media. Show us that, because that to me is gold.
Yeah, so this we're really excited about. So we've all gotten so much training on how to use the outreach module within the RCM tool, and this is going to be integrated right into this new convention module. So as you look here, there's just a few that we've put here, but this will be pre-populated for you based upon the media market that you're in. And when you click one of these, it will open up and it will give you the name of the localization that your content team has already made for you. So for this one, featuring the drama, right? And here's the details of it. Here's the link that we could then send to that organization and they could download all their content. We can see that they've clicked it, that they've downloaded something, the latest note. And then we can also say, well, you know what? In addition to the featuring the drama, this particular venue is also going to support a new language, say Twi, and that's a localized release that becomes generated by the content team. We can just click this and it will add it to this organization. And now we can also put that information out to them. Very powerful and very easy way of keeping track of what we've already given to the media versus what we need to do in our timeline.
Just phenomenal. I think that that's going to be a game changer for our work, and I know that over the next several months it's going to be even more refined. As an example, the Office of Public Information gave us access to a commercial site that does this and paid a lot of money for it for the international conventions, and we're glad to be able to save not only money but also have a better product. So thanks once again, Bill. We look forward to specialized training for this in March and April. That we will have as part of our quarterly. We'll have a brief one in quarterly, and then we'll also send that to the regions for their regional meetings in April. So thanks for all you do, and thanks to your team. They're still busy, and that's not going to change. So we love you guys, and we love what you do.
Yeah, and just one tiny little thing we want to show too as well is there's going to be an additional tab where you can see the actual entire team that you're going to be calling out there as well.
Now, I
so there's
on
that office
team,
assistant.
I notice on that team you have all young, beautiful sisters as office support. I don't think that that's very healthy.
I'll leave that up to you. But, yeah. So.
Oh yes, it's a local decision. It's a local decision and principle based.
Absolutely.
That stiff upper lip is staying with you. Okay, Bill, thank you. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah,
pleasure.
So that's exciting, isn't it?
It really is. It's amazing.
So are you excited about conventions?
I am. This is what we do.
This is it.
This is it. And this is going to be so powerful. We thought going back to the meetings was powerful. We thought return to knocking was powerful. I just can't wait to see what Jehovah does with this.
I agree. And so we're just going to give one example. We're going to leave you on this example. About in St. Louis, we had this young sister who I think she learned like 12 or 13 or 14 languages, and we featured it in a release. We put it out there with this headline, "Hola" or is it "Bonjour," and the media picked it up, and they loved it. So we're gonna bow out with this, but I want to say that we have a lot of cool things to come. This has been Talking Heads for the last 2 hours. But we don't usually save the best for last. I think we save the most important for first, but now the best is coming, so don't leave us. We're going to leave you with this, though, report from our convention in St. Louis, and we'll see you on the other side with Seth Robertson and Robert Warren.
Happening today, a Christian conference welcoming 5,000 people from 43 countries around the world, and it's beginning here in St. Louis. It's a Jehovah's Witness gathering focused on love and how the world could use a little more of it. Abby's introducing us to one girl who learned what it took to get that message across the moment visitors started arriving here.
Every welcome is a warm one when you're coming to St. Louis in August. McKenna Johnson wants to make it feel and sound a little closer to home. The 11-year-old learned how to greet the visitors in their native languages.
I learned French, Portuguese, Spanish, and Italian. I just wanted to make them feel as welcome as possible. Hola.
Hola.
She hopes to see some of these places herself one day.
I want to go to France and South Africa a lot. Salve!
Oh, she's learning Italian, good.
A little bit.
Good. But her favorite language to speak comes in the form of a good activity recommendation for her hometown.
The arts for sure, the zoo.
Where's your favorite place to eat?
Ted Drew's and the Post.
Gotta love that.
Hi, nice meeting you.
For Tissel, I'm Abby Larico.
All right, everybody.
Live. Are we live? Hey, Seth. Good one.
You, Robert.
All right. So now we come to one of our favorite segments of our quarterly meetings. That is Voices from the Field. So it's beautiful to get to be here for that. Seth, pleasure to have you here.
Robert, I was hoping you would introduce me with your TV announcer voice. It's our first time together.
Okay. All right. Seth Robertson, come on down. You're the first voice in our Voices from the Field. How's
Robert
that?
Warren has the best TV announcer voice here.
Been practicing that for some time, so it's great to be able to do this segment together with you. But it's a great time to look at Voices from the Field too, and I think this time is a special one because our oversight really wanted to kind of examine people who have gone through periods of change, either in their lives or in their assignments. And so I think we've got a really great couple of segments to look forward to, and particularly the first video is going to feature comments from Phil and Lisa Dawson, and they've experienced some change, and I think their comments are going to be a real treat to watch.
Can't wait to see it.
My name is Lisa Dawson. My role in PID includes transcriptionist and interviewer assistant.
And my name is Phil Dawson, and I'm the experience content lead here in Region 4. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm actually a fourth generation witness on both sides of my family. So my granddad on my mom's side was in the first class at Gilead. So if you look in the Proclaimer's book, he's in that picture. He's the tallest one in the back row.
I was born to witness parents. Both of them were in the truth, but when I was about 5 or 6, my parents got divorced and my dad got disfellowshipped. The biggest thing that helped me to navigate through that was Jehovah gave me a family in the congregation as I was growing up as a teenager.
And my congregation only had one pioneer, and it wasn't me. And then Lisa moved in along with 2 of her friends from a neighboring congregation. They had talked to the circuit overseer and wanted to go somewhere that needed a hand. So these 3 sisters moved in and just had a really positive attitude and really kind of an infectious zeal for the ministry. We pioneered together for about 2 years. We were just close friends, and we spent a lot of time as a group together. There's the 4 of us. We all worked full time. Just got to really appreciate Lisa as a spiritual person and someone that I really came to love and admire. So Lisa and her friend, the one that was like a sister to us, they were going to move to where the need was great in a different state. And before they packed up and left, I said, "Hold on a second." and she stayed, and we started to date then and got married shortly after. I began to set serious spiritual goals as a teenager, and really it's those goals that have driven me and Lisa, through our marriage together. It brought us together as a couple at the beginning and continues to guide us now.
There have been moments where we felt kind of like out in the middle of an ocean, so to speak, like not really sure which direction to take.
So we talked to our circuit overseer, and he gave us a couple of places to think about, and one of them was Minneapolis. We had about 4 or 5 months under our belt working with PID, and we were enjoying the work a lot, but now we had this new goal of moving to Minneapolis to work with the Hindi group. And so I talked to the brothers that were our spokesmen in Region 2, and they recommended reaching out to the brothers in Region 4, where we were going to be relocated, and seeing if there was a fit. And so we started to pack up our bags. We found a job, found a house. We moved out here, started working with the group, and 6 months later, the group was dissolved.
When the group was dissolved, after we moved here, 6 months after we moved here, I definitely experienced mixed emotions, like disappointment, sadness, feeling lost, and confused. One of the things that made us feel so good about the move here was that the Hindi group gave us that feeling of family that we had in Pittsburgh. So we felt like we'll be taken care of. And now it's like you know, like dissolved.
When the group was dissolved, it was a roller coaster of emotions. You know, you understand it, you get the logic, and you see how it makes sense. But at the same time, you know, we had spent 10 years of our life learning this language. You could instantly feel Jehovah's hand helping us and supporting us through it. And even though we continued to have up and down emotions, he was patient with us. And change is difficult, change is scary, but it's to be expected in this system of things. And Jehovah's really taught us how to be able to maintain our joy and our enthusiasm for his service, even despite changing circumstances around us. One of the most precious blessings to me has been the friends and really now family that we've come to have in PID.
And hearing the experiences of the friends, like whether I'm on an interview or I'm doing a transcript or proofreading, that has been such a blessing, because there have been days when I felt really down, or, you know, I was going through a rough time because I lost my brother. And then I hear an experience or read an experience of someone else who's going through something similar, and getting to take in how Jehovah has helped them reminds me that Jehovah is doing that for all of us.
So our goal right now is to just really focus on, you know, being present and being involved in our current assignments and doing the best that we can at them. And we'll continue to reach out when opportunities come. But, you know, whatever it is, we've seen that Jehovah can make us joyful and happy in any assignment that we're in.
Beautiful couple. And I just loved how they were so open and frank with their comments on their feelings and dealing with change.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine 10 years they were learning Hindi, and then they're encouraged to move to this congregation with a need, and then 6 months later it's dissolved. That was a big change that they went through.
Yeah, I really feel like they lived what the November 2022 Watchtower talks about. There's a study article we're going to go over on keep your senses when your loyalty is tested, and it made a comment. It said wholeheartedly support changes that Jehovah's organization makes, including any that affect your assignment. Find joy in whatever assignment you're given. And that's exactly what they have done. Even though they didn't see that coming, they saw, well, here's our situation. They didn't keep beating their head against a door that Jehovah had already closed. They allowed Jehovah to lead them to another open door and see how he wanted to use them.
Yeah, and we know whenever Jehovah's organization directs a change, it'll be good for the organization, and it'll be good for us as individuals. And now 3 years after this change with foreign languages, we see that. We had strong congregations during COVID, and couples like the Dawsons, they remained available. They had this tremendous opportunity to support our work in PID, form new friendships, so they were personally blessed as well. And the same will be true with these adjustments in PID. We'll be stronger as an organization, and as individuals, we'll be blessed.
Absolutely. Beautiful expressions. Thank you. And we see how Jehovah's blessed them so richly with each adjustment they made. And now our next video is going to feature comments from someone that Robert spoke about earlier, and we heard from actually Michael Muncie and his dear wife, Liana. Robert mentioned that they're with us. We're thrilled about that, but they make some very interesting comments too in reference to the major changes that they went through in their lives and their service. So let's watch that video and see what they say about that.
I'm Michael, this is Leanna. We're the Muncies, we're from Southern California. I'm currently working as the branch production team coordinator for the Public Information Department.
I'm Leanna Muncie and I assist Michael in his PID assignment.
My family always thought I was going to go to Bethel right when I turned 19, but I actually didn't have that goal at the very beginning. So I actually got the congregation involved at the very beginning to explain that this was my goal, that I wanted to pioneer, that I was interested in somebody, and that I was not going to be going to Bethel at age 19. And it shocked my family and my parents. I overthought it completely. But they were very supportive, very helpful, and making the decision that I wanted to make.
When we were first married, we were living in California. So we moved to Kentucky to serve where the need was greater than Southern California. And there, I felt like we grew up there. We left our parents, we moved there. It was like a fresh start for us. We we were pioneering at that time too. But there is where I felt like we blossomed in the truth. We started working in the RBC, in the food service for the RBC. I think it just taught us a lot about ourselves, that we were willing to do more for Jehovah. And then from there, we moved to Nevada, which I felt like we matured. We matured more there too.
We decided to sell our house in Las Vegas. I thought it was going to sell immediately. It didn't. Then we got a wonderful phone call asking us if we'd want to be here at Bethel for 7 weeks to help out and do whatever assignments with the Public Information Department. It's just that same week we got the offer on our house. It was amazing when I got to tell my parents that we're going to be going to serve at Bethel for 7 weeks, that they always thought I was going to do, but it just took a little bit longer in my case. I am a planner. Everything about what I do, I like to have it planned. Everything is planned down. He'll create a spreadsheet with the plan. We loved being here at Bethel. It was amazing, the best experience of our life. And knowing that it was all coming to an end was tough. There was a lot of pressure. We didn't have a home. We didn't know what we were going to do, and there was no plan, there was nothing, and that's so unlike what we normally do. I was asking Jehovah, please just let me not worry about it. I don't want to be worried about it. I don't want to be stressed about it. I don't want to have any anxiety about it. I'll just take one day at a time and do whatever. But that's not easy for me. That's exactly opposite of what I'm used to doing every single day. His stress was like rubbing off on me. It was like I could feel his stress. It was just radiating off of him. And so I was stressed out about it too, because we didn't know where we were going. There's no home. We have no home. I don't even know where we would go after this. Leanna and I decided that night on Sunday that, you know what, it's okay. We're fine. We'll figure this out. It's our last week. Let's enjoy our last week at Bethel. We were sitting around a fire with a few friends, and then a sister just mentions this program, Power BI. Why are they asking about Power BI? Something that I literally spent the last 3 years being trained on. Had no idea why I was learning this program, but then in the end I saw there's actually quite a bit of need here at Bethel for Power BI, and I was actually very surprised at that moment. Then Monday morning came around, and I got a text message from a brother in the service department, and I talked to him, and that's when he asked me, he says, would you be available still to be able to attend SKE in March? And he said, before you respond, think about it, pray about it, call your wife. I usually don't answer my phone. And so my phone rings, I actually answer the phone, and Michael says something like that, like, I just had a conversation with a brother and we got invited to SKE. And then the next sentence is, and they asked us if we would stay at Bethel until the end of February so that we can go directly to SKE after that. First shock, then excitement, and then a little bit of panic. It was just like one emotion after the other. But in the end, very excited. It was a dream come true. When we came into PID, we had no clue what was going to happen in PID. But the one thing we did know is we have this assignment today, and it might be gone tomorrow. We don't know. You don't want the assignment to be a stepping stone because you love it so much, but then when you get the next one, you're excited that it was. As Leanna mentioned, it just gets better. Jehovah always gives you wonderful, wonderful assignments. There is no spreadsheet right now. I had to learn to get rid of all of that type of planning, which was very hard for me, something that I've never done in my life. Jehovah had this spreadsheet already planned for me. I just didn't know what it was. I'm ready for the future, whatever Jehovah has in mind. Whatever it is, it's the best thing for us because Jehovah's the one that's in control and he knows what we need. So it's going to be the best thing.
Outstanding, isn't it? I mean, you can't help but love them. And we've had the privilege of having them with us physically here, which is great because, of course, due to the pandemic, we haven't been able to invite our PID family to be able to come in person to be with us for training or working on projects. So to have Michael and Liana as the first ones to get to do that since the restrictions were eased has been such a joy. But you know, we know that Michael's worked with the branch production team, but he was a little modest in those comments in terms of what he was doing. And I know, Seth, as you oversee a lot of the activities with the branch production team, maybe you could, you know, fill in a little bit about what Michael's role has been with the branch production team.
Yeah, it's hard to overstate how busy the Muncies have been with that work, and especially video work over the last year. So I think for our videographers on our meeting today who wonder at a time like this, you know, where is my place? We're really excited to be able to share Michael and Liana's experience, because as was mentioned earlier, they went through those moments where they didn't know. They were 4 days away from leaving Bethel. PID's video work was ending. They didn't have a plan, but Jehovah had a plan for them. And we know that's true of all our PID volunteers. If you stay available, if you let Jehovah lead, Jehovah will take you to somewhere exciting. Like Liana said, it can be a stepping stone to something else.
Yes, and just a beautiful example of a couple, just like Abraham and Sarah, they put their entire lives in Jehovah's hands and let him direct them wherever he wanted them to go. So it kind of reminded me of another statement from that same November 2022 Watchtower. It mentions, be assured when it comes to changes, be assured that Jehovah understands your feelings. And when you support such changes and loyally stick to Jehovah and the organization that he's using, you will surely be blessed. And we are seeing that with the Muncies in particular. So
yeah, I hope we get them back for selfish reasons after SKE, but we don't know what Jehovah has in store for them.
Absolutely.
They're already working with both service department and PID, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, you can't help but love both of these couples that we've had for our voices from the field. They're doing what they're doing for us as part of our PID family, and what they're allowing Jehovah to do with them for the sake of the organization, or continuing to offer themselves willingly for whatever Jehovah asks of them. And it's so nice that they're not looking at these things in terms of pursuing spiritual goals for their personal fulfillment. They're really pursuing these for the fulfillment of God's will. And that includes accepting whatever changes come along in line with that. So
great example.
Yeah. So Phil and Lisa Dawson and Michael and Liana Muncie, thank you so much for allowing us to interview you, and sharing your experiences is so helpful. We all are going to benefit from the lessons that we learn from what you've experienced in Jehovah's service, and that's going to help all of us as we move forward in terms of our work in PID. And Seth, such a pleasure to be with you for this segment. But maybe you could tell us a little bit. There was a research project in connection with media hits, and I understand that there was a video that talked about some of the results of that. Maybe you could share with our PID family some details about that.
Yeah, thank you, Robert, and great to be with you. So because we had so much to cover today, we're running short on time. So during this part, actually, we kind of called an audible, and we're going to move that video out of the live program, and we'll send you a link to it in the email that includes the summary of this program. So stay tuned. We would love it if you could take 10 minutes and watch it, though. A little backstory on what the video is. 5 or 6 months ago, we assigned a research team to analyze our past media hits, because we're now several years into PID. We've had probably 5,000 total hits, so we can spot some patterns in what kinds of stories the media pick up. That was 5 months ago. About 5 weeks ago, we recorded a little video panel where our researchers told us what they found. Now, when you watch this video, bear in mind that all of this was starting before this updated direction came. But you'll notice that what they found really proves that the direction we've received from OPI and from the coordinators committee will work. They found that simple press releases about our theocratic activities with simple localizations work in every outlet across our branch territory and have been our biggest hits. And there's a lot of nuance that they uncovered that they'll share during that video, but it's very reassuring as we move forward that we can have success while simplifying and balancing the work with other theocratic activities. So we'll turn it back over to our overseer, Robert Hendricks, for our conclusion.
Well, thank you so much, both Robert and Seth. And we apologize to those who have participated in that video, training video. we'll make it available, and we might even play it at the quarterly. But we would really ask if you would use it. It's going to be a good training tool for us, and it was done in a new way. We did a different format for the training, and I think you will enjoy it. Well, as we look ahead, we feel very good. We feel at the conclusion of our program today that we've accomplished our goals here with you. We are thankful that we were able to give you this information all at the same time. All of you are getting this. Nobody had a preview of this information. And it was one of the more difficult quarterlies to come up with because we had changing information all the way until this week. But we are also very, very happy and gratified to our oversight that they have made things clear to us so we can make them clear to you. Now we're looking ahead. This entire last 2.5 hours, we're now going to look back. As we think about the crossroads, we are at this place that is very, very exciting for us. When you really think about that beautiful expression in Jeremiah, being at the crossroads, looking where we have succeeded in the past, and taking from that where we can succeed in the future. There's a beautiful thought when we think about where is the good way. There's a beautiful thought for all of us to contemplate. It's not a scripture, but it's from a poet, and it's this: in each pause, I hear the call. What a beautiful expression, right? It goes right along with Jehovah telling us we're at the crossroads. Look back, think, pause, see what has worked for us in the past. See where we have personally and departmentally been the most blessed. See where Jehovah has had his blessing and where we've had the most joy. Contemplate that for a moment and recognize we are only happy and joyful when we are absolutely busy in Jehovah's work. And the primary work we have to do is preaching the good news of the kingdom. Our congregations right now, when I have visited somewhere between 12 and 15 of them over the last 6 months, our congregations need you. They need strong men and women, sisters and brothers, couples and families as a bedrock for their ministry, for meeting attendance in person, to be joyful and to overcome the last 2.5 years. And guess what? They have you. And now they'll have more of you. And we love that. We love sharing you back with your congregations, back with your Bible studies, back in your ministry. And we ask you and beg of you and pray for you that you will make the most of that opportunity. As we conclude, we want to just give you a little looking back now on, we've been looking ahead, now looking back on what we accomplished over the last year. And I think you'll find it's truly amazing. Take a look.
I was just very depressed that day. I said if they send me a text, I promise to text back.
If you let me find Peggy, I'll know that that's the true religion. Like an hour or so, my phone buzzed. Peggy Zuniga. Jehovah answered me.
I have not seen inside of the Kingdom Hall yet.
I always wanted a family. I have Jehovah fully in my life now.
I feel I got rescued. The friends that I've met, I want to be friends with them for eternity in Jehovah's family.
It's my privilege to welcome all of you to the PID Cybersecurity Safety Meeting.
Cyber threats are a real danger. We work with things that belong to the organization. Now, with that great privilege, we have to say comes a great responsibility.
Our foremost concern is protecting Jehovah's organization.
When I was 11 years old, I started using drugs and alcohol. I probably was arrested 25, 30 times. I wrote my dad a letter, and he encouraged me to study the Bible. And I was blown away at what I was finding. Just a week after I was released, I went to the Kingdom Hall. It was like Jehovah was saying, welcome home.
It really shows the transforming power of God's word and how strong it is.
We could share the truth with them that could transform their life into something far better than they've ever experienced.
I knew right away this was a bad situation.
Wind gusts up to 200 miles per hour.
Completely destroyed. There wasn't even one wall left. After the storm, we felt so alone, but then the brothers showed up and we knew they're going to help us get through this.
We're in an organization that's the first responders, picking up the pieces of their lives. We wanted to be a part of that.
I found many what I call angels in the flesh.
In terms of the entire Jehovah's Witness group, amazing, honestly.
Some people that you just automatically trust. So basically, I just gave them the key to the yard and said, take what you need whenever you need it.
To know that we don't have to do this by ourselves. We're all in it together, and we're not going to get out of here until we're done.
A loving couple fed and housed all 8 refugees, though unable to speak their group's language.
Tatiana said, I knew Jehovah wouldn't leave us.
Coming today for the first time, I really learned that Jehovah is love. All of his people are loved, kind, and it's amazing.
There are no words to describe the difference in, being able to be here with them and hug them.
To be able to do that and be together, to encourage one another, to see each other's faces, to be able to hear each other's voices, to get those hugs again, to have in-person ministry, and also have the option to be hybrid so that we can have a virtual audience is really a great step forward for us as an organization.
But just 18 months ago, we did this work without the pitching toolbox.
It was very difficult.
It was organized chaos. The brothers were working very hard.
What we came up with in an Excel form, it was literally a Gantt chart.
We changed the bits and pieces to make that work. We were able to take the design that was given to us and integrate it right into the RCM tool.
Before the pitching toolbox, there was such a vast amount of different ways that B-roll was stored. Now it's all consolidated.
Storyboarders, the videographers, photographers, the graphic design artists, and the pitching toolbox is a place where their skills get to live.
What I really feel is tremendous appreciation.
Now imagine being charged criminally because you failed to get the permission of the government before you knocked on your neighbor's door. A 1998 ordinance in the village of Stratton, Ohio, did just that. And the case went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Associate Justice John Paul Stevens announced the High Court's resounding 8-1 decision declaring the ordinance unconstitutional. Why is working with LDC such an opportunity for us?
PID can promote favorable media coverage at various stages of a project, so this critical work of building and maintaining kingdom halls can continue to bring praise to Jehovah.
Thousands of Rhode Islanders, Connecticuters, Bay Staters, New Jerseyans, New Hampshireites, thousands of Vermonters, thousands of New Yorkers, thousands of Mainers will be introducing an interactive teaching platform to the public that helps make Bible study easy to understand and retain.
How's it, brothers? I know you have masks on, but Jehovah sees the smile.
Sir, information was overwhelming. It shows a level of togetherness. I really appreciate the unity that I saw.
jw.org 的文件。
Una ayudanza humanitario.
Кто выполняет роль ведущего дела?
¿Cómo ayudan los monitores de casos?
우리는 이 말인에 대한 여호와의 축복을 보았습니다.
Wow, overwhelming the amount of work that has been done by you volunteers in the field and here in the branch office. I suspect that the end of year report for 2023 will look very, very different, but be just as busy and just as meaningful and impactful. We want to thank you for all that you do for PID, and we want to especially thank for this program, all that worked on the elements for this program, as well as our branch committee and also the coordinators committee for providing powerful and clear direction to us. And I want to personally thank Brian Caldwell, especially for making this a seamless transition in the studio and making this work. Live programs are not easy to put together. You have seen me fumble with it over the years, and he has really perfected it. So we thank you so much for him and for the assistance that he has here. And we thank you so much for being with us today, spending a little bit more time with us, and we hope that you don't think we were indulgent in taking your time, but we hope that you think this was time well spent as we look to the future and we look at what we've accomplished in the past. We love you very much. We extend that love toward all of you now, and we pray that your families continue to be safe, and we thank you for all the work that you've done and will do in the future. We'll ask our brother Matt Ullman, who is the Assistant Overseer of PID, to say a closing prayer for us.
Jehovah, our kind, loving Heavenly Father, what an honor it is to worship you, to bear your name, to be involved in the most important work during the most important time in human history. And we certainly, Jehovah, ask that you continue to guide us and direct us as you have and that we know you will. We have enjoyed this program today, Jehovah. We have sensed the leading of your Holy Spirit. We appreciate the way that you've provided guidance to us, to your organization, the governing body, and now here in Public Information Department, the oversight here in the department, and all the many brothers and sisters working so hard. We want to just first and foremost thank you for this awesome privilege. Jehovah, we appreciate when there are times of change that anxiety is something that's a reality. But we feel, Jehovah, that this program here today has helped to allay some of those anxieties. We appreciate that. And we feel that this path forward, the good road, the good path, is becoming clear. Jehovah, we know that obedience to you is comforting to us. It takes pressure off of us when we know that we're aligning what we do with the way you think and the way you guide us. So please help us to be obedient, to be positive, and think of ways that we can capture the spirit of the direction we received today and implement it in how we go about our work in Public Information Department, but also trying to strike a balance and making sure that we have a full share in the important work of preaching and supporting our congregations. Thank you for allowing that balance in our lives through the direction we received today. Please continue, Jehovah, to be with Brother Hendricks as he takes on his very weighty assignment here for the branch. Also, please be with all the brothers and sisters working here at the branch. But Jehovah, especially, we ask for your spirit to be upon our field volunteers. We love them very much. We appreciate them. So please continue to be with them. So thank you. Please send us away rejoicing from this program and help us to do everything that we do to bring honor to your name. And we pray it all in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.